Happy Saturday. Happy September 23rd, 2023. Happy first full day of autumn, my favorite season of the year. Got the door open today. It was, I think, 86 today, which is perfect. There's been a breeze. This is what I fought for the last 3.5 months. This is the point of the year that I made it through hell, literally, and the flooding and all the bullshit weather that we've had to get to this point. From this point to maybe early May, because I don't mind the winter as long as it doesn't snow. But this right here, this perfect, not too hot, not too cold, door open, you can go outside without bursting into flames. It's my time of year. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live. Welcome to the Saturday overnight edition. 1 hour earlier because I was toying around, not torturing people, and starting at 9 and basically keeping all you Midwesterners and East Coasters all the way out. So I know this is going to be a little bit of a shock to people. Some people might not be used to this time. Some of you will probably be getting the live notifications for like the next half hour if StreamYard has been any indication of what they have been. But we got a lot to go over. As you saw in the thumbnail, we are going to cover in deep, not in deep, but in depth, more depth than we did on the weekly shows or weekday shows with Grand Admiral Thrawn's appearance in Ahsoka episode 6. Not the greatest Ahsoka episode, but his appearance made it worth it. We're gonna have a little strike talk. I didn't put it in the thumbnail because I was hoping it would be over by then, but it's almost over. It sounds like we're on the edge of it being over. Our comic turning story of this week will be the Maxx. The entire series, which is basically a groundbreaking, revolutionary series by Sam Keith. It went over and became a cartoon on MTV. It's another groundbreaking thing that we need to bring up one day. And we will talk creator. As a matter of fact, we're going to open up. I'm going to open up with some creator talk. We're going to promote the movie later on because I'm actually going to see Creator on Tuesday. I've been handing out posters and giving people free seats to see it with me on Tuesday, so we got that going on. I've also been sending people to Saw. Here's a t-shirt for Saw. We got some pretty cool things for Saw. Some people will get that. Others will get, this is cool, stainless steel. They really went all out to this one. It's like a multi-tool. It's a multi-tool as like can opener. It actually gives you instructions of what it all is. So can opener, knife edge, screwdriver, ruler, cap opener, 4-position wrench for various nuts and bolts heads, butterfly wrench, saw blade, direction, ancillary and indication, 2-position wrench, lanyard, hole, keyhole. So it's like a keychain that does a lot of stuff. And I guess this is relevant to the movie in some way. I will be skipping Saw X probably because once you introduce eye torture, I'm out. Also, something else we got, almost hit my head on the mic, is these. You guys probably won't be able to see this up close, but there it is. It's a lock and a key, a little bitty itty lock and key with the Saw X logo on it. So that's kind of cool. So this is the kind of stuff we've been doing all weekend. Let me go ahead and bring in co-pilot Brad. How are you, Bradley?
Hey, how's it going?
Well, I'm doing all right. Let me make sure my sound is right because last week I had the full-on stream. Everything I thought was going well. And then I got home. Shit. And when my sound was off. So I'm going to check the stream real quick. Hold on.
Are you mute?
We're good.
I
muted myself so I could hear the YouTube stream. I got home last week after the show. I was so happy with that show until I heard the sound. I was so pissed. So I really wanted to make sure that I'm where I'm needed to be, that the right microphone is on, and you can't always tell with the settings because the StreamYard is kind of goofy that way. So here we go. Before we get to the strike, I got a bone to pick with just about everybody. The Creator, a movie that we're promoting, is coming out. It's coming out on Tuesday. It's an $80 million movie now,
and I'm looking forward to it a lot because it looks like it looks like it has a very kind of Terminator-esque kind of a feel to in terms of the premise of like a future war with mankind and machines, and Terminator Salvation kind of left me wanting in that regard. So it's like I'm really looking forward to it on the in terms of that. It really looks like it'll really deliver. Where Salvation I feel kind of dropped the ball a lot.
Salvation dropped the ball at the opening credits, but that's a different. Now, here's the problem I have with this. This movie is $80 million. It's going to be hard for it to fail, in my opinion. But let me bring up this article, and this is not. I'm not picking on comingsoon.net because I hear this. This is a trend that aggravates me to no end. All right, let me bring this in. I have so many screens up. Bless you. I have so many screens up right now. It seems like we're both having allergies.
Oh, they're just clear my throat.
All right, here we go. All right, this is from comingsoon.net, but it's not exclusively them when it comes to this trend, and I hate this trend. Oh, man, all these pop-ups. All right, movie fans want to know the latest creator box office predictions and whether the new movie will flop or succeed. This big budget sci-fi movie could surprise viewers, but will it make enough money to become a box office success? Here are the latest box office projections. The creator box office results is projected to flop. Long-range box office predictions for creator claim that it will open with 15 and 24 million domestically and end up totaling between 40 to 85 million. However, the actual figures could differ drastically. Considering it was produced on a budget of 80 million via Variety, it would need to earn 250 to 300 million, depending on how much money gets spent on marketing. Right there. That is my problem. How the fuck do any of these guys have accurate statistics when people that I deal with who send me stuff, who organize the budget for this stuff and cut us in on this stuff to get stuff like this, to get stuff like, like this and all the other stuff. How do they know? And why is it they always seem to be off with this? So you're going to tell me that, and they went to these strains to keep their budget at 80 million, but they're going to have an operating cost of advertising costs to the point where it's going to cost them another 150 to 200 million.
Well, especially with the strikes going on, yeah.
And this is not just with the creator. People shape this narrative about what a movie needs to make based on a ghost number that there's no way that they know. Those numbers are kept as. Trust me, the only thing we got for creator was what I showed you, and that's across the board. There wasn't that many screenings for creator. I have to go to the only one that was available to me, so they're not spending a lot of money there. And it was the same thing with Morbius. Oh, Morbius needed to make a 500 million to break even, and I'm like, okay, they spent 75 million on that movie. There wasn't any physical promo for that movie. The commercials that they showed were minimal, and most of them were on networks that, that they already had bargaining deals with. And when it comes to creator, or when it comes to like a WB movie, they have networks that they just air their stuff on. And then they have agreements with each other like ESPN, ABC, and then NBC and Universal, because they both are collectively bargaining to show NFL. They show each other's commercials with those on the cheap, unless it's a Super Bowl commercial. So how is the movie that was made for 80 million need to make 250 million, 300 million to break even?
Yeah, there's the math is always complicated when you're talking about like what the financials of break even or turning a profit are. So again, especially with the situation with the strikes, where it's limiting the ability of writers and actors to do press, that's obviously impacting box office. And then of course you have things like, I think we both have mutually said, it's like we're at a phase in terms of the impact of streaming on the overall business model, where it's like you need the analytics of profitability and success and failure really need to be taking like every possible revenue generator into account. So really boiling it all down to just what its worldwide tally could be, and what if it can hit that threshold, it's like it does feel kind of short-sighted, this stage of where we're at with the current realities of the business.
Somebody tell me, what am I missing here? Because if Box Office Pro says it's going to make 40 to 85 million, to me, an $80 million budget movie. Okay, so that right there, it's a low budget movie with not a lot of press. I mean, the viewers had to fill me in on this movie. I showed the trailer. I found out about this movie while I was on the air, so it's not like this is a widely known movie. So 40 to 85 million for its total box office run. That's just in the box office alone. Now we move it, and we've already gone over and over again, as far as we're making money. Now, when you look at some of these movies, like I said, they always like to destroy Morbius. No, it wasn't the greatest movie, and it was a mess of a movie, but they kept that budget at $75 million. So why do people think that they turned around and spent? I had people on streamer on the same screens I am saying, well, they spent about 125 to 150 million on budgeting. No, they didn't. Whoever did that would have got fired.
They don't spend more than the production budget on the marketing budget. That doesn't happen.
But you're telling me they spent twice the production budget on a movie that they made. Now it's different when it's a blockbuster type movie where you have a heavy investment in it, because the more money you put in, the more you're invested in making sure everybody knows about that and it works. Like an Avengers movie or Marvel movie, it's going to have massive budgets in some cases, but for the most part, if you kept your budget down low, look what A24 did. A24 makes a lot of their money, but you don't see a lot of commercials on high leverage commercials on A24 stuff. They have the credibility of their studio now, definitely now more than ever. They're not spending that.
Yeah, I mean after everything, all at once, yeah.
Yeah. Now, and like I said, I've always showed people, and I put this on last minute. As far as one of our topics is, I always have stuff where I show people the type of stuff that we did for movies that are, and I don't have any of it here. I can show you a huge budgeted campaign. Shazam, stuff like this, huge budgeted campaign. When we did the Harley Quinn and the Fantabulous, whatever the hell you want to call that movie, we had a massive I have the pins out here, but we had a massive one for that. We had inflatable hammers for that. We had a lot of stuff for that. We had stickers. We had keychains. I just gave a customer a keychain. We had ones there were bats on them, and then one that was a sledgehammer or her hammer, and then we had all kind. I mean, we literally had a bag of stuff, like a swag bag, that we gave to people, and we gave them seats to multiple screenings. That's a big budget. Suicide Squad. I have one up here somewhere. We had the Starro mask that you could wear. We had all the stuff for that one. And like I said, that's when you're talking about a massive budget, advertising budget. And because of commercials, people say, oh, they have to pay all those money on the commercials. Disney can afford to, but they have made massive networks. They have ABC, and they have ESPN, and they have all their Disney outlets to put that out. They really don't have to go outside of that if they don't want to. Warner Brothers has TNT, TBS, CNN headline. I mean, they have multiple, and plus they have syndicate. I mean, they have so many ways that they don't have to spend a lot of money. Sony, if Sony wants to do it that way, but trust me, every movie that Sony makes right now, they have a deal in place to sell that movie to a streamer because they don't have one. Morbius was already being sold to these streaming platforms before it was even released. So not only did Morbius not cost that much, it was already being sold. So a lot of the money was made back then. Hold on for a second. But but I'm always wondering, because this is the kind of stuff that shapes the narrative of success and failure, and it can wear on movies before they even come out. Because I guarantee you, I'll bet everything you want to bet. They didn't spend twice the budget on a movie that they didn't even make it so that everybody even knew was out.
One, and I'm sure we'll get to this when we get to it as as a primary topic. But I mean, if it does like financially underperform, that probably, especially with the kind of the trends we've seen this year theatrically, that probably says a lot more in terms of the status of theaters and box office more generally than it really does about this movie itself.
Yeah, because this movie looks amazing.
Oh, it looks fantastic. Yeah, when we get, I'm going to hold back my thoughts on that until we actually properly get to the topic. But yeah, it's like I am really looking forward to it.
Let me say hi to the chat before I jump in here. I started early because I know.
I think to add to that real quick, I think also maybe some of the projections might be because Saw X is opening the same weekend, and
that's
with Saw being the kind of the preeminent Halloween movie franchise. There's I don't know what the tracking is on that right now, but I mean maybe there is a perception that it's like that. It's kind of the sort of the heavy favorite of next weekend, but that's a speculation. But we'll
like
see.
Fast X. Well, here's another one. Fast X. We got a ton of shit for Fast X. I can go through, dude. I can go through these ad campaigns because I got.
And he still hasn't seen Fast X, everybody, by the way. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, I got tons of stuff here. Oppenheimer, dude. I could gift wrap my Christmas gifts this in Oppenheimer posters. That's a big
you gift wrapped a Oppenheimer Blu-ray and an Oppenheimer poster.
Then you have a movie like that only cost $90 million, but they didn't really spend a lot of advertising on that. You didn't see a lot of commercials about that. Nolan his name on it was the advertisement for that, and then Barbenheimer took the rest. I mean, so I just wonder where these guys are getting this numbers from.
I think that there's a larger conversation to be had, and maybe like a lot of what we said also about the Flash and the unfortunate situation that ran into, with both of us feeling it deserved far better. Post pandemic, I think this maybe speaks to a larger conversation about just theatrical trends, box office trends, and just how the industry is going to need to adapt and accommodate to that in a post-pandemic world where streaming is also becoming so much more ubiquitous.
Well, and I think the major adjustment that needs to be made is fans. Fans and pundits that foster this bullshit. Because look what's before the movie is even released. We're creating a situation in a BS reality where this movie needs to make $250 million for an $80 million movie. That would be great if it does, but if it makes its box office it's a small movie with no real exposure.
It's got the son of Denzel in it, and he's actually making quite a name for himself too. Because he's very.
That's not knocking John David Washington.
Oh hell no, and he's very talented. For that budget, again, I'll save my thoughts when we actually properly get to
because we're going to go into that. But So all right, numbers. William, did you hear about the 20 wrestlers WWE reportedly releasing from their contract? Yeah, we spoke in length about that. The last couple of weeks. Now this is different because the reason why they're being released is the mergers, is cost cutting mergers, and there's probably going to be more that get released. But this happens every time you have a merger. But even in wrestling in general, a lot of times they'll reconvene. Every major company will take a look at the stories, the angles, the future plans, and they'll see who fits and who doesn't fit, and then they'll release them or they'll move them out. Now, what I expressed when we brought this up earlier the week, the best thing about today's wrestling is that we have AEW, we have a stronger New Japan, we have even an NWA, we have Impact Wrestling, we have MLW, we have, and then if you have a big enough, decent name, you can actually do your own promotion and just basically put together shows, one-night shows, and make your money that way. 10, 15 years ago, when it was just WWE, people could get screwed and you had nowhere to go. You had to take less money than your market value was because you had nowhere else to go. and when you had to work under the fear of being released for some bullshit reason because there was nowhere else for you to go. Now, most of these guys, almost every single one of those guys probably is on the phone with another wrestling company right now, so they'll be okay. But yeah, it's just weird how the wrestling game has changed. How you doing, Chappie? Chappie is going to Saw X. I'll have
By the way, Daniel Martin has one down here where he says, "Can we combine Fast X with Saw X and Jigsaw sets traps for Dobbs Family?" I'd agree with you. That'd be a cool thing. Except that Fast Furious is so ridiculous now that they'd survive no matter what Jigsaw threw at them.
At least Jigsaw survival is explained in a trailer. I mean, now I was wondering, like, okay, are they just retconning everything, or is he being resurrected? But then I saw
it's an interquel, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's like an interweekle or whatever the hell. How are you doing, Daniel Martin?
What's up, William? Or what's up, Daniel?
Clint, what does Clint got to say? Y'all have me to thank for William being coherent and slightly more awake. Yeah, Clint got my coffee for me.
Well, of course, he's got the duck image in there, which of course I saw your news last night, which is like, I will not miss that for the world next weekend.
I may miss that for less than the world. But fine, like I said, fourth had a ridiculous night. It took me up on the joke. I did not expect him to do it. He did it. I'm like, oh.
Well, if anybody was going to do it, it's going to be him.
Yeah, I know. The guy who turned my chat room into the damn meat factory. All right, Chappie, what do you think of the National Lampoon? I hate all of them. Sorry. I hate every single National Lampoon movie. Damn well.
I love the Christmas Vacation. That's kind of a holiday season classic for me.
And that is not because I hate them quality wise. I'm just not. I hate those kind of movies. What's the word for those? I know the comedies, but there's a certain brand of comedy they are, and it just turns. It's like that Benny Hill shit. I just don't like it. Yeah. I'm science fiction, horror, fantasy, guys. One comedy movie I paid for in the last 20 years. One, Tropic Thunder. That's it. Everything else is a drama. I'll see drama, Oppenheimer. But if it's not science fiction, horror, and fantasy, I don't want to hear, William, you need to broaden your eyes. No, I don't. Screw that.
Well, I don't
care about chick flicks.
Yeah.
I don't care about human interest unless the humans are being eaten or killed. I don't care about comedy for the most part. I don't even watch sitcoms anymore. You know what? Once I outgrew and I no longer had to live in the same household with one TV as a kid, I stopped watching sitcoms for the most part. I have narrowed my focus. Sorry. Spidey, what's going on? All right, no Saw movie accurate. You know what? We're just gonna go ahead. Oh my goodness, Salvation was such a bad movie. They made the time loop dumper. Yeah, they really did. That
I was not a fan, and I thought Bale actually was pretty good as John Connor. But it's one of those ones. Salvation is one of those ones to me where it's like it has like individual like disparate elements that like can work, but just like the whole package together.
Terminator movie.
Yeah.
Genesis was horrible as well, and then these were movies that had good actors in them. All right, hold on, wait. Here's Chappie losing his mind again. Y'all are crazy. Terminator Salvation is awesome. I love
second
that movie.
Favorite term. Hey, dude, wow. If that's the hill you want to die on, have at it, dude. I'm not that.
Okay, Chappie, and I can't because I'm not looking at you right now, so I can't tell if you're typing this in laughter. You're telling me Terminator Salvation is better than is better. So I'm assuming number one is the original one,
or T2, yeah.
T2. I mean, so you're saying it's better than one of those by my math, which is just horrific.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, you're trolling me. Your fourth 1000's not even here yet. He's already had his effect. Daniel Martin, Chappie, I was disappointed with Salvation compared to the expectations were, but it's not a bad movie at all. Much better than Genesis or Dark Fate. For Dark Fate, which was really bad. The Dark Fate was a good movie, but it just wasn't a good Terminator movie, and that hurts it. That makes it a bad movie, in my opinion. But oh well. How you doing, Jacob McKenty? Here he comes. He's got about 10 for me.
Oh, yes. I was about to bring this up when we got to the strike talk. So they did, as we were speaking, WGA and AMPTP put out that statement that he just posted there.
Yeah. It sounds like they're close.
I mean, do you want to go ahead and start on the topic?
Huh? Yeah, we're just
You want to go
we'll
ahead?
jump on this one now. Yeah, because I didn't put it in the thumbnail because I was hoping we wouldn't have to. But hey,
Yeah, but I was going to mention that once we got started, as we were just like a couple of minutes before the stream started, they put out joint statement from WGA and AMPTP. The WGA and AMPTP met for bargaining on Saturday and we'll meet again on Sunday. And they pretty much said that, some version of that every day since when did they start this last round? Like on, what was that, Wednesday or Thursday?
yeah.
So it's like every day, it's like we met today, we're meeting again tomorrow. And the trades keep going back and forth on, well, they made progress on this, but they're pinning down the fine print about it. And, there's still stuff to be ironed out. And it's like they're closer than they certainly were months ago, but it's a lot of non-specific kind of just.
I kept hearing that it was going to be over like this week, and it's not.
Yeah, well, and the real kicker for me is because I've been pretty closely monitoring on Twitter a lot of the reactions from writers, members of the guild, and a lot of them have been taking a lot more trepidatious an approach in terms, and particularly with, of course, I'm sure you saw the reporting which said their AMPTV described this as the talks today as their best and final offer, and of course the writers are just picking that up and running with it because it's like if they say no, what are you gonna do? It's like, are you gonna?
Well, what is with? Are these current executives just not good at this? Because Bob Iger, for the genius that he is, has said some really dumb shit.
Yeah.
David Zaslav built Discovery into something special to the point where it could buy Warner Brothers. And he said some dumb shit. Why would you're negotiating? Have you never, they've always been in positions of power to where they had the complete upper hand and they never had to negotiate anything. Because
I think that's what this is. I think there's a lot of hubris at play. What you're getting at.
Why would you say final anything? You know damn well that if they say no,
yeah. What do you? I saw like one tweet I saw from I forget who it was in WGA said something. It's their final offer. If we don't pin this deal down, then they're going to switch to auto manufacturing.
Yeah, or they're gonna end up. What they're gonna end up doing is they're gonna end up messing around. And like I said, you're going to see these indies start getting a lot of money from a lot of mysterious places, and you'll start like Ben Affleck and
Matt Damon. Yeah, they found their company,
production company.
Yeah,
under normal circumstances, it could not rival a major big company like that without distribution. But if this keeps up and there's no other options, you're going to start seeing them make concessions to where, like, you know what, WGA people, you can go here,
and especially with. Especially with their company, specifically Artist Equity. I mean, their entire business model is based on, equity. It's based on sharing, the bearing the fruits of the labor in a more, equitable way.
Yeah, and you could see, like I said, you could see actors and De Niro's and guys who have a lot of money funding these things, doing like a bit role, and then funding the rest of it. And then, when these strikes are over, selling them back to these guys.
I mean, The Rock could he could theoretically turn $7 into like a really big, bigger than it already is.
And his movie, like I said, he without, could you imagine The Rock making Black Adam if he didn't have to deal with DC films?
Oh, I mean, the hoops he would not have had to jump through to get Superman.
Superman's already there. Superman's in the movie.
Superman's there is like he's helping take down Sabak in the finale.
Yeah. He's in the trailer, or they're fighting one way or another. So yeah, I think The Rock would be very capable. But yeah, that's your strike talk. I thought that we were done with it, but I should have known better.
It sounds like from a lot of the reporting on which again there's not a lot of specifics in terms of what the. I mean, there is, and they've talked about the sticking points have been AI and streaming residuals and one or two other things. So. But there hasn't been specifics in terms of like what each side is, what's key, what it would take for them to meet in the middle. So, and again, the news since did it start Wednesday or Thursday this last round negotiating?
It started Wednesday.
Okay, every day since then it's been, they met today, couldn't sign the dotted line, so we're meeting again tomorrow. And now we're doing that again on a Sunday. And apparently they want to get it done before the way it's being described is get it done before Yom Kippur on Monday, which seems a little arbitrary. But there's also been a lot of commentary from, again, members I've seen on social media and WGA saying, no, they're really, the reason they're trying to get the AMTP is trying to get this finalized is because they got their quarterly earnings coming up on October 1st, and they got shareholders to answer to.
Well, they're just gonna fudge the numbers anyway, because like I said, how are you going to determine residuals? So are the writers just basically saying, okay, we're gonna go on your numbers, or
exactly
have they reached an agreement we don't know about to where there's disclosure? Because if there's no disclosure, how do you know as a negotiator for the Writers Guild or Actors Guild that you're getting a fair market value if you don't know what the fair market value is?
With that part of it specifically, I mean, because that's been something we've discussed quite a lot on the stream is about the streaming residuals and the numbers they're tied to. It's like, okay, they want to set up a streaming residuals apparatus. Okay, to do that, you have to have the numbers, and if they're not giving you the numbers, then there you go.
And if I'm an actor, if I'm a producer, and I'm doing work for Warner Brothers or Disney or any of these, I want accurate numbers, not because I want a fair cut, not just because of that. That's one of the. I want accurate numbers because wherever else I go, I need those numbers are part of my resume. If I'm Zack Snyder, and I mean, I don't think anybody executive wise believes the bullshit that that they were pulling over, telling people that Zack Snyder wasn't a success, all that. I think that once you take out the fanboy button out of your head, that doesn't work. But for somebody like Sif, I did something for you. And you know what? We're not working together anymore. My contract's expired or whatever. We decide I'm not doing something with you, but I'm going to go over to Netflix. I'm going to go over to another studio, and I'm negotiating with them. A lot of my negotiating power is in my drawing power with what I've done with you or anywhere else. How am I going to have the appropriate leverage that
I don't have that information?
That I have a right to if I don't have all the information, or vice versa. How do I know that you're not overvaluing? I'm going to bring up Peacemaker because, once again, guys, trolls that'll come in here afterwards and just say, Peacemaker was the greatest thing. They split the atom. I am a Peacemaker fan. I became one after episode 3. I'm not knocking the eventual.
Yeah, it's not a judgment of quality on the show, guys.
No. But the fact that they were going to tell you that Peacemaker was great, no matter what Peacemaker was doing, because they wanted to validate the risk that they took on making a movie or making a show off of a movie that lost money. They had to validate that. Now, how do I know going forward if I'm going to take a risk? Bradley Kern, you directed Peacemaker, you wrote Peacemaker, your baby. Now you come to me,
and I want to run DC Studios.
Yeah, and I'm trying to determine your value. How am I properly determining your value if there's a possibility that it could have been inflated in this manner? See, so it works both ways. I need to know, in order for there to be fair market, there needs to be disclosure on what is fair. You can't lie about something like Zack Snyder's Justice League and tell me it was this and that without numbers, because you're devaluing my resume. You can't tell me that Peacemaker was the greatest thing since the toaster was created without giving me the right information, because you were inflating that value.
And see, and the fan, this is the fan, partly the fan, I mean, the journalist too, but also the fan in me. Part of what I wanted out of the strike is, okay, what's the number? What I want that to come out of this. Like, what are the numbers on ZSJL? What it do on Maxx? What it do on the other streaming platforms? What's it done on digital download? And I want that's a byproduct of the strike. I really hope comes out of it is like, okay, they tell us we can't continue this, give us the numbers and then justify that.
And I can take it to someone else, and someone else can use that information to say, you know what, that those numbers that you did that didn't work for them, they work for us, but I need to know those numbers. Real quick, Chappie has a related question. What does underperforming usually mean to a box office bomb, or did okay? See, and that's the bullshit, because we're looking at it in our caveman terms of, if it didn't make everything in the box office, it's a failure. When they are thinking about it in linear terms from beginning to end, from the beginning, the concept phase, the moment that they spent the first dollar to the moment they make the last dollar, that's how you think in business, period.
And
I don't care
especially,
what it is.
and especially when you have, all these secondary revenue sources, post theatrical now. I mean, Waterworld, it's an example of that. I mean, that was a bomb theatrically, but it turned a profit once it made it onto home video, once it did, cable deals and things like that. So I mean, that it's a bomb. It's known as a bomb, but it has made money for the studio.
Yeah, if you have narrow vision of where money is made and you don't understand that, then yeah, you're going to say, well, it didn't make this much. And then you start filtering in the bullshit of, and their production budget and their ad budget that you don't know, they keep those close to the vest. I've been on conference calls with people who send us this stuff, and they don't always put out those numbers. And when they do, they're not even close to that, what these things are. Because when you rent out a theater, you're renting out, that's part of your ad budget. So that what happens is the company hires intermediates for the most part to do all this for them. So you'll get all this stuff from the intermediate. The intermediate is the one that takes that money that the studio gives them and they rent out theaters for screenings. And they do all the promo. They're the ones that ship everything out. And that's your people who do that. And so I'm on the phone with these guys all the time, trying to increase. I'm about to have another conference with the lady I work with about Exorcist 3, about getting as many seats, because I think that one's going to be a sleeper hit, and stuff like that. So we're talking to these guys on all the time, and I throw these numbers out at them, and they don't necessarily respond with any specifics. Sometimes they can't. They laugh though. When I say, hey, you know what? I was on my stream last night, and some fanboy said they spent this amount of money on advertisement. One lady almost dropped the phone. She's like, they wouldn't be able to afford me, and B, I'd be fired if anybody ever greenlit the kind of money that they think. And then there are some that do, because not only is your ad budget, when you have a big movie, sometimes people think, they're spending all this ad revenue on this movie, and then it bombed at the box office. You're not just advertising for its time at the box office. You're advertising that movie for everywhere you're going to make that money. You're advertising that commercial that lets you know that movie is aware, has legs all the way up to the shelf on Walmart when you buy that Blu-ray or DVD. That is when the last dollar starts being made. And guess what? That movie, that ad revenue you spent on that movie that bombed, when you put it on TV, when you put it on TBS, when you put it on any movie channel, and that ad revenue comes in, and that ad revenue, you end up making more ad revenue than you did on the advertising budget itself. That's, people don't realize the money doesn't stop getting counted till the money stops coming, and in some cases that's a long time. But yeah, we as fans, we see the movie in the box office. We don't always have the capacity to think all the way through. So to answer that question, Chappie, there you go.
Yeah. So with the current status of the strike, I'm not in that negotiating room. So I mean, we can only, our speculation can only take us so far on this. But I mean, there is, with the back and forth we've seen the trades. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of commentary that AMPTP particularly has been kind of using a lot of language in the trades to sort of push WGA, like sign the dotted line. But I'm starting to get very suspicious that there is it's like, yeah, the deal is closer than it's ever been, but it's maybe being embellished that it's like 1 inch away from the finish line, and there's maybe more, if not more, sticking points than maybe there's like, I mean, like language has been, one thing that's been really specified today, where they said we're getting lawyers in here to help, to go through the fine print, make sure the language is, of all the whole contract is, and that sign, it's a good sign, but it's a good sign, but also
the last person I see is my lawyer.
It's a good sign, but it's also, it's like if they're picking up, it's like they're trying to pull a fast one on us with a whole bunch of these things, and it's like, then that's a bad sign if that's what they're coming away with.
Well, generally, okay, here's how this works, because I've had to sign a lot of contracts. I'm in the process of doing one with Elise here. That now that we've come to terms, once you have an agreement in principle, the lawyers are basically there in every contract I've ever signed, to make sure that the intent that was spoken, like me and you came to an agreement that you're going to get this, I'm going to get this on these dates and everything else. The lawyers are basically there to make sure that it passes the muster of what we intended and the law. and collective bargaining law, because me and you can go back and and negotiate whatever the hell we want, right? And we can know what we want, but there are collective bargaining laws. So if I promise you, Brad, that I'm going to give you this remote, and I'm going to give you this remote for a certain price or whatever, and if there's a collective bargaining law that says no, you can't, it has to be minimum this or this frequency like that. There are certain technical things that have to be to make the line up. But if we agree on principle, we're bringing the lawyers in basically to write it in languages that will stand up in the legal terms. So my hope is, if you're bringing the lawyers in, because lawyers are expensive on both ends, you don't bring in the lawyer to get charged, because right now the lawyers haven't been involved. But once you start bringing in the lawyers, that you're starting to pay big money, and you usually don't want to pay that big money until you're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm hoping that's the case here. All right, he disappeared again. He's probably having some internet issues. Anthony Belche, William, what's your opinion of Chris Evans says his biggest worry about playing Captain America was making shitty fucking movies. I don't want to be contractually obligated to make garbage. I'm wondering if that tells you what he thinks about the current state of the MCU. I read that comment and I'm like, ugh. There you go.
Heck up there.
Yeah, but I was just saying, when it gets to the lawyers, because now you're talking about the WGA is paying a lot of money. They have the best lawyers out there for their industry, and the studios are paying the best lawyers out there, and them jackasses are getting paid by the hour, by the page, by the everything. Mm-hmm. So generally, once you bring them in, it's under a limited scope. They say, here's this, and then they talk to each other. Once you hand it over to the lawyers, and they have the intent, it's the lawyers, they start talking to each other and making sure, and then they hammer out the final deal, and then that deal gets read back and ratified. So I'm hoping that that's
so let me ask you this. So it's like, if they don't, because again, they're supposed to meet again tomorrow from this joint statement, if they don't, and even if they do, like, strike a tentative deal, then they have to send it back to to be voted on within the WGA membership. But if they don't strike one on this round of negotiation, what do you see kind of coming out of that in terms of where things stand between the WGA and AMPTP, and also with SAG? Because, I mean, this is kind of leading the path to where their negotiation with SAG is going to go.
I still think that they may be close, even if they don't go through this round, because there are some sticking points there that may take time. When you're talking about things like disclosure and percentage of income and all that, that's stuff. Once you agree that you're going to meet somebody halfway, you still have to work out percentages that are fair. You still have to worry about, okay, so say I'm going to give you this amount of money. I concede that you deserve this amount of money. Where does that money go? What frequency does that go into a fund? Does that go into the healthcare fund? Does that go outright to people? So once you agree on the numbers, there's a lot of different things that you have to agree on to where that money goes. Does the frequency of the payouts and everything else, does that adversely affect you as a unit? Netflix has to get involved with their lawyers. Even if we all agree in principles, the rules for Netflix are different than the rules for Warner Brothers and Disney and everybody else. Because, like I said, whatever concessions that those studios are giving up are coming out of revenue streams that they have. Warner Brothers has multiple revenue streams that they can draw from to make up what they have to give up. All Paramount, all these studios have 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to make money. Netflix has one. So a lot of the hang up might be there with them. But as far as even if they don't come to a deal tomorrow, I don't think that means that this is going to take forever. It could, but I don't think them not coming to a deal tomorrow necessarily means that it's going to take, that they're at that kind of impasse. Possible, but I'm not sure. All right, William and Brad. Brad disappeared. What is the percentage you guys are at for the strike being over soon? 30, 70, 60, 40, 50, 50. I'm at 50, 50. So, all right, let's see. You guys are going back at it. Jacob McKenzie, William, thought I saw X will have one post-credit scene. Not really interested in it because he's dead already. So what's the post-credit? Is he coming back to life? I don't know. That movie. Just like I said, you lost me at the eye trailers. All right, we're still talking Terminator. talk here. How you doing, RJ? What's up, man? Huh? For creator? Yeah. Just you and plus one? Okay, hold on. Let me put you down. Email, inbox. Jay Oldham, right? All right, cool. Jay. That's for the Saw promotion. I only got limited ones of those. Yeah, sorry. Creator. All right, 6:15 AMC Town Square. I'll probably be there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there for that one. It's coming Tuesday. And I have to give those away on air. All the T-shirts and these. So yeah, each seat that I give away for Saw has to go away with the prize will I guess. So I can't give you one of those. I'm sorry. I can give you a creator poster. She gave me 200 of those. All right, man, you're all set for creator. All right. Let's see. Back to the action here. Where's the kitty ears? I only wear those when I'm at the house right now. Hold on for a second. Here you go, Brad.
Yeah,
Buy me some time.
Some weird. I'm on my laptop. I have to. I'm gonna switch over to my my desktop.
All right. So what were we saying? Oh, hey, hi.
It was about hey RJ and Art Numbers has one down here, and I think kind of plays in what you were saying before my little thing happened there about It's if the government were to step in or well, I think probably I don't know necessarily legislation would be the kind of the first step. I think probably you'd see a federal mediator before you'd see like actually like any kind of laws ratified.
All right, see you later.
That could be a byproduct if the federal mediator led to the discovery of anything particularly illicit or that really needed to be monitored.
All right, so I'll read this question for those of you who don't have video up. So hypothetically speaking, if the government had to get involved to make laws so that this would never happen again, what would that mean for studios and filmmaking in general? Well, that would change their collective bargaining agreement, because a collective bargaining agreement comes from the court system. It comes from the court system and is legally binding so that we keep stuff like that out of court. So if a mediator has to get involved and the courts have to get involved, they're going to lose a lot of the exemptions that are between them. So yeah, it'll be a lot more transparent than maybe either side wants to. So that's why usually when you have work stoppages like this and when you have strikes like this, and usually it's in sports, right as you get to the edge of having to give up numbers and having to be held accountable like that, people draw back from that line and you end up negotiating out of court, because once you put it in court outside the collective bargaining agreement, that is now the binding precedent. You don't want that if you're a studio or if you're actors. All right, so Anthony, I'm trying to read a lot of comments. It's Saturday and I got topics to get to, but I'm going to try.
Hey, Rhea, we see you down there.
We're not gonna. What's up?
Never see Rhea down there.
Is she down there?
Yeah, in the comments. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Real quick, William. The original Terminator movies that came out in the 80s and 90s. Which one underperformed at the box office?
First one. It was the first one. I really, I wouldn't even say it underperformed.
It actually was a blockbuster for 1984.
Yeah. Well, especially because they spent. It was only like the budget was only like $6 million, which is definitely very atypical for a Cameron movie.
Fingers crossed, a strike instant. Yes. Rhea, evening, William, Brad, what's up? How y'all? Happy Saturday. How you doing? Speaking of cat ears. Let's see. Yeah, hit the like and subscribe button. The tip link is pinned to the top. If you want to join the Patreon, it's also in the description as well. And let me make sure. I'm stunned about the strike news. I'm at a standstill.
Yeah, it's real. I know. The language of it, and again, I've been really monitoring. I would encourage everybody, when you see updates put out through the trades, I would also encourage, like, go on Twitter or go on social media and, like, you check out the reactions of people in WGA and kind of how they're responding, because for what I've seen, it's definitely not as rosy in terms of how they're responding to it as what a lot of the reporting has been. And it's just that's kind of one of my big takeaways on it. And this is for me explaining why certain genres have a horrible domestic, but when you look at their international, it all performs by. I'm not quite sure I understand your last part there.
Okay, I'll try it out. Brad, can you guys explain to me why certain genres have a horrible domestic box office here in the United States, but when you look at their international box office, it performs? So the basis of his question is, why do certain genres perform outside of the United States better than they do domestically?
Yeah, that's. I'm not necessarily like a box office analyst, but a lot of that can come down to, like, who's involved. Maybe their poll is international better, or maybe like culturally speaking, certain genres like translate better, overseas, or like one in terms of like universality. I mean, like, obviously superheroes are pretty big thing all over the globe. The action movies are a big one, although we're not seeing that with the Expendables 4 this weekend, which broke my heart. It's the most recent one.
I think that franchise has just ran out of gas.
This last one was like, oh man, I can't believe this, how much this. And I was looking forward to it big time, because it's got my guys, and it's got Tony Jaa from Ong Bak and Iko Uwais from the Raid movies. It's like, oh man, I was looking forward to that. And
it's anchored by a generation that's just not the median generation.
That's
anymore.
Probably, I would say, and it probably peaked really, I would say, probably with the second one, because I love the first two. I'm okay with 3. This, I don't know what the hell happened with this one.
If Fast and Furious had a bunch of 70-year-old dudes at the fill in, then it would. I mean,
it's for as long as it's been going. I mean, it might get there eventually.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're going to end it before then. Question: how come Netflix has been silent? And for the most part of the strike, they don't have a lot of power. I mean, the only power that they have collectively is to hold it up. But if they do, then the other studios will be like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and move on, and you won't share in the benefit of this collective bargaining. They pretty much have to use those other studios as cover, in my opinion, because they just don't have the revenue streams.
Yeah, and you've always said it's like Netflix, out of all the studios, they're the ones that are the most justified in terms of playing hardball.
Yeah, they got one revenue stream. All right, so let's go ahead and get to some of my topics here. So go ahead, man.
Well, I just had a couple of questions that Spider-Man asked me here. I wanted to answer real quick. Asking me about, and this is actually something Steven DeKnight talked about on Twitter with the Daredevil Born Again series, and he had mentioned that one way that Disney and a lot of other studios can kind of tiptoe around and things like residuals and back end like that is where they retitled the show, so it's not. So it's, in a legal sense, it's not connected to the original. So that way it's kind of like a fresh start. So in that sense, it's not connected to, I mean, story-wise, I mean, I would think the first 3 seasons of Daredevil are so freaking good. It's like, I would think that it's like they would behoove them to at least maintain some kind of token reference or connection to it. And certainly with like the hallway fights and one-shot fight scenes. But I mean, we'll just have to wait and see in terms of like how much it references. I think I had heard something there is going to be some kind of reference to Matt's past conflicts with the Kingpin. So, they are maintaining some kind of connective tissue that way. But, we'll and of course the strike is slowing down, finding out, just how much connective tissue there is. But we'll just have to wait and see. And then I got this other one here from Spider-Man. He says, they wasted Iko. Yeah, they wasted Iko Uwais. He's talking about the Force Awakens. Iko in it's the Kanji clan when they're first kind of on the Millennium Falcon, and they kind of have that run over those guys, and the big squid creature eats them. They wasted Iko Uwais, Chechep Arif Rahman, and Yayan Ruyan from the Raid movies, and Yayan and Chechep would eventually be in John Wick 3. And Eco's gone on to do great things. He was actually in a very Expendables-esque kind of movie called Triple Threat, which also had Scott Adkins and Tony Jaa and Michael J. White and Tiger Chen, all those guys. But that really crushed me too, because I was looking forward to that big time. When it's like, oh, the Raid guys are going to be in Star Wars, and that's something I would like. Like the Rebel Moon franchise. Hey Zach, why don't you bring the Raid guys into that?
Hey, screw you, Fourth 1000, for the $5.
Well, now he's Midnight Meat Walrus.
Yeah, and I hope he stays that way forever. William McGass forced to stay. A movie he hates. No Other Way. Howard the Duck played on the screen. A cinematic nightmare. So obscene. He suffered through his patient. Oh my goodness, this is a poem. The vow to avoid it from that day. Oh my goodness, what is wrong?
Oh, he is just pouring the salt on the open wound there.
Lost your mind, but hey, he paid for that salt, so you can go ahead, everybody. Yeah, I'm Foggy and Karen aren't coming back. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. I just have some issues with a lot of the way I don't think they really needed to restructure that one.
I don't either. Yeah.
There's a
because I think the consensus, and I'm certainly of it, is that Daredevil is the best of the Marvel Netflix shows, and it really set the tone and the template so well, and it's such a popular show. And of course you saw the response to his cameo in Spider-Man: No Way Home, so it's like, why would you? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I would. Oh, you chat G. I thought
brought to you by Chat GP.
Oh Lord. All right, so let's get to I'm going to start out. You know what? I'm going to start out with the Maxx. The Maxx being our comic book.
Again, this would be kind of a learning one for me because I'm not really all that familiar with it myself, to be perfectly honest. Is this DC or Marvel?
This is Image.
It's Image, okay, yeah.
One of the most. All right. The Maxx. For those of you who are familiar with Sam Keith, he did work on Sandman. He did work on the Hulk. In fact, he had a really, really good run on the Hulk. He went to Image, because at the time, Image was a creator-driven. You owned your characters. You could do whatever you want. That's why, when Jim Lee, went to DC, he took his characters he created with him. Spawn, all those characters are owned by the artists and the writers who created them. The Maxx was one of these. The Maxx, wow. The Maxx was probably one of the most innovative series that ever came out, and that particular time, it was definitely, in my opinion, the most innovative thing Image had. It involved everything. It involved serial killer. It involved rape. It involved depression. It involved suicide. It involved guilt. I mean, all manifested in the minds of these characters. What the Maxx is it's basically let me bring her up. Julie Winters is probably the cog that drives drives the entire storyline. She is a social worker that has been dealing with a lot of things that has gone on in her life that she's kept suppressed. And she has tapped into this abstract world called the Outback. Now, the character of the Maxx comes along because she's driving and she accidentally hits a person. And it causes this abstract universe to open up. And there's a character, the Maxx, actually exists in a reality called the Outback. He merges with the homeless person that she hits, and he comes into our world not really having a good grasp on his past or what he is, because he's now mixed with this person. So he keeps having images. He basically becomes a superhero, or big giant purple superhero. The costume of the Maxx, if you look at his head, it's actually a lampshade, because there was a lampshade over the homeless guy's head, if I can remember. And that's how he was created. Her place in her mind that she created the connection created him. And the first first maybe 6 or 7 issues or so is them not even establishing that, because they tell you that in retrospect, but it's all about her and everything she's been through. She's been she was raped as a social worker, and she buried all these things in her mind and created this world in which he came out of, and they made the connection to. There's other characters in here, and so I'm going to read you her origin, and this is from Comic Vine, one of my favorite sites to go to. While trying to help a homeless man, Julie was beaten, raped, and left for dead. The incident caused Julie to subconsciously create a realm within her mind called the Outback, a savage land filled with giants, gods, and all manner of strange creatures. Now, she creates this, but other people have access to it. Most notably, and this is some of the artwork. I hope it's coming through. I can never trust you. Okay, here. This is some of the artwork, and this is all Sam Keith. Sam Keith is amazing. And they're starting to share each other's thoughts. And then one of the other characters, and one of my favorite characters of the whole series, is Mr. Gone. And he is a motherfucker. A mysterious misogynist obsessed with his niece and her connection to a realm called the Outback. And I'll introduce you to the niece. Mr. Gone has issues. Raised by his sexually and verbally abusive aunt, Mr. Gone has turned his childhood trauma into severe hatred of women. After his first wife, a drug addict, killed their son and herself, he married again, but the abusive relationship was restored. Gone had a girl named Sarah, who is a friend of Julie. Sarah develops the same powers as he has in the series. He actually connects to the Outback via sorcery, because in the Outback, he has powers. After his second wife left him, Mr. Gone went on a raping and killing spree, and they show that in the cartoon. They don't actually show it outright, but they heavily imply it, both in the comic and the cartoon, that Liquid Television, in very disturbing ways. And Sam Keith's artwork makes it bleed out. Mr. Gone tries to tell Julie about the Outback, Maxx, in her childhood, but this is where she kills him. This is halfway in. She just basically decapitates him. All right, and he has powers that are connected to the Outback. The origin of Mr. Gone's powers: while on a trip to the Australian Outback to study ancient Aboriginal religions, Mr. Gone discovers a form of magic that allows him to manipulate the minds of others. Mr. Gone has admitted to being not very powerful magician. Also, while in the Outback, Mr. Gone discovered the main predator, the Is, which is his new mind-controlling skills. Mr. Gone acquires an army of Is to serve him as dim, toothy henchmen. And basically what he's discovered is the connection that she created. That's why they exist in each other's headspace. She deals with a lot of this. And like I said, it's really this is one of the ones that I brought up that without actually reading it and experiencing it, either by watching it, the MTV version of it, which is very accurate, very true to the source material, or reading it, it's really hard to get the appreciation of just how these characters are portrayed. And this is like, once again, kind of like the Sandman, where in the late, early 80s, 90s, these were not things that were being put forth in comic books. Not in comic books that were considered to be mainstream. Image was still an indie, but it was a huge indie at the time. I mean, you had Spawn anchoring it, you had Rob Liefeld, you had all the big names, Jim Lee, all the big names that left Marvel to form this company. So it wasn't like an indie, like a Dark Horse or Kitchen Sink Press or something like that. This was massive. And Sam Keith left, his career was on the rise at Marvel, and he came over, and it's his artwork that makes it, his artwork that really, 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 really anchors all this. His depiction of the female characters in here, it got a lot of controversy back then, because if you look at Julie, she's like always scantily clad. She has a very over sexualized vision of herself, and a lot of that is because she's devalued herself because of the rape and what her sexuality means to her, because of all the things she's subconsciously putting in her head. And she suppresses. This entire series is about this reality she creates because she can't cope. She can't deal with being raped, being left for dead, the guilt for hitting the homeless guy, which ironically turns out to be her hero, and she creates this place, and this other mentally ill guy, which is Mr. Gone, he connects with that, and those two realities collide, and to the point where that's what your conflict is. But the Outback is brilliant. It's a brilliant metaphor. I'm not going to say for mental illness, but I think it's a brilliant metaphor for having a place you can go when the world just becomes too much. It also deals with suicide because obviously Mr. Gone's wife, one of the reasons why he's batshit crazy and he has no value for life in regard is because his wife killed herself and their child. Also, there's another character in here that's very Sarah. Sarah is Mr. Gone's kid, his daughter, and she's inherited the same connections to the Outback as they all have. All right, Sarah was a depressed teenager whose mother sent her to Julie Winters for counseling. She was often in conflict with her mother and had to face the latter's disciplinary methods. Sarah was eventually revealed to be the daughter of Mr. Gone and briefly the new protagonist of the series, because she comes in. And when Julia goes away, she figures she wants to get away from everything. She wants to create a new life. And then Sarah takes her place for almost a year. And she has daddy issues because her daddy's a serial killer. And he had issues. I mean, he handed down these issues to her, and he handed down the connection to the Outback to her. At least that's how I interpreted it. So let me read some of the stuff. Yeah, Sam Keith did Aliens Earthlore. He did most of the covers for that, and his style is just brilliant. Let's see. I just want to make sure.
So yeah, like I said, it's like kind of a new one for me because I mean, my big, to be stereotypical, my big kind of title. I'm most familiar with that image, of course, is Spawn. But yeah, anybody listening who's maybe not fully aware of the history, I mean, yeah, Image Comics is quite a big thing in the early '90s when you had the kind of that mass exodus of guys like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld from Marvel and with
Mark Silvestri. I mean, it's just a lot of them. Oh, I mean, Mark Silvestri had a legendary run off of X-Men that I just loved and adored. He preceded Jim Lee, and then Jim Lee and him left. After basically Todd McFarlane saw how many copies he could sell of Spider-Man, and Jim Lee saw how many copies he could sell of X-Men. It said, you know what? Why don't we? We're not getting our fair market value, so why don't we just create this? And we'll go over the story of Image one day, just all on its own. But
which is weirdly topical now with strikes, obviously with that analogy you just made. And McFarlane, I mean, he's always been quite the entrepreneur. So.
Yeah, up and down. I was reading the Maxx back when Mortal Kombat came out, and I had a few issues, and was also reading Spawn. I loved them both. Yeah, the Maxx. The Maxx was just great, and when I saw it illustrated on MTV, and I saw the way they took Sam Keith's art and the way they animated it was cool. You had a lot of still moving frames and stuff, and I'm like, I really love this. And I'm like, I mean, it was just, I had no words for it at the time, because you got to realize this was years ago. This is just before I opened my store. So, and this was just a new way of storytelling that only Vertigo was doing at the time. All right, let me see some feedback. How you doing, Vince? How was the concert, homie? Let's see. How you doing, Azteca? Yeah, please watch the animated show. All right, Meat Night, Meat Wallace. I hope that name stays with you outside of YouTube and everywhere else. Well, Julie Winters was pro-sex feminist, as she explained. Yeah, she was a pro-sex feminist, but I always, and this is up for interpretation. I always thought the way she dressed was because and then somebody did like a psychological breakdown of both her and the Maxx and Mr. Gone. I remember reading it somewhere. It was cool. Is that was, she had devalued her woman, something to where this was her way of rebelling against the control she had lost over her body. That's how I interpreted it, and that could be wrong. That's just the way I interpreted it. Or that maybe that was just Sam Keith, doing what he does. Because his women did. The Outback was developed by Julia as a child based on the stories of her uncle's journey to Australia She overworked. Yeah, and she basically developed it in her head, and it was just neat. I mean, and the way they depicted Outback in the later issues is cool because it's a big, beautiful, colorful thing, and they carried that over into the show too. Rhea, I bet we'll cover Spicy City on the show one of these days. Makashi was an inspiration for me in a film in film and animation school. Maybe. I don't see why we wouldn't. Remind me about that, Rhea, because I'm having a hard time even pronouncing that name. I'd love to see Tank Girl animated series or another live action adaptation. Yeah, Tank Girl was a big risk for them to make a movie out of. It was at that time, and this is coming from a comic book guy, not a lot of just people who walked into comic book stores didn't know what Tank Girl was. And for them to take that IP, Ice-T's in there as a kangaroo man. That has like an all-star cast, man. Lori Petty's in that movie. I actually love Tank Girl. Okay, so they're talking to each other. Let's see. Definitely count me in for a Spicy City Retro review on live stream. I love that show. All right, cool. I'm going to be a learner on that one, I guess. All right. Yeah, the Maxx is beautifully depressing. And like I said, I think the Maxx is more impressive once you get done with the Maxx. And once you realize what everyone is and what everything means, you look at it and like, holy shit, that's what that meant. That's what, I mean, when you discover all of her coping mechanisms and how they connect them and bind them all, it actually becomes a more beautiful story than it is when you're just reading it along. When you read the Maxx postmortem and it all wraps up, and you reach a resolution, you're like, wow, it's actually better than when I was reading it, because he's using metaphorical imagery to let you inside of their head. So you're actually dealing with the issues that they're dealing with in the way that the character is dealing with them. And that's pretty hard to do when you have that gamut of emotions. Image Comics is one of the great examples of knowing your value. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yeah.
Do you both agree that John Wick and Extraction?
Well, this one didn't. I mean, that again, that's seeing a few comments to what I had to say on Expendables 4.
Well, like I said, you got a bunch of guys that are past. You got a bunch of guys that are past.
But they got some guys. But like I said, they got Tony. But they've also got Tony Jaa and Ego. And my God, what they do with Tony and Jaa and Ego Oasis fight scenes. I'm so tired of the shaky cam on these guys. I mean, I don't know what the heck. I might have to see it one more time just to fully solidify my thoughts. But wow, it was a real and like I said, if you haven't seen anybody watching, there's one they were part of. It's called Triple Threat. It's a very Expendables-esque kind of. It's got Tony Ego.
They're doing donuts in the parking lot. Hold on.
Okay, it's got Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais, Tiger Chen from Man of Tai Chi, Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, Gigi Yonan from Chocolate, Michael Bisping from the UFC. It's a very Expendables-esque action movie. I love that one. So and Tony and Ego are far better served in that. So I would almost recommend give that a look in lieu of it. I take no pleasure in saying that because, like I said, I love the first two, and it's like I even I'm more okay with Expendables 3 than a lot of people are. I mean, the PG-13, that was a bad move, but yeah, this does not feel like the glorious comeback that they were pushing for. It's like, I mean,
it's not. Yeah. Doesn't look like it. Yeah. All right, Midnight Meat Walrus. I never got into the stories after where the animation left off. I hear the Maxx goes into Sarah's story. And her version of the Maxx as a horse. Yeah, dude, read those. That's what I mean. The animation was brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But it could only go so far. There's a much larger story after that because Sarah is a big part of this story. It brings everything full circle. That's her father. And it's her father that is accessing and has found a way to access that neutral place that they're all connected to. And her issues. Remember, her issues are his issues. She is a product of his misery, and he is a product of it. And a lot of it, the Sarah part of it, and the Mr. Gone, it's all shared misery. It's shared misery because he came from a background that was awful, and he in turn, brought that into his life, and that affected his daughter. Having your father be that affected as well. And then when you bring Julie back into the situation, then it starts out as just about Julie, but it actually fleshes itself out. Without her in the story, you actually get more of the Maxx, and he starts to identify what he is. Because remember, when you're first reading it, he doesn't know what he is, and you're having to figure all this out using the metaphorical imagery that you're getting, and the is and all this stuff, and how it all is connected, how they're all connected to each other. And this grizzly fan is more fleshed out in the story that takes place the the animation ends and anything, because what the animation gives you is it gives you just a base story. It sort of hints at what they all are, and kind of like not rushes, but gets to the point. But if you don't read the comic book, and I implore you to, there's a lot of other imagery. There's a lot more about the Outback and the way it connects and what it actually means that's in the book. So if you get a chance for it, go ahead and read all that. St. Clinton, local, is kind of funny, sitting here looking at Amazon to get a copy of Tank Girl, but sadly, they're all region 2. Yeah, physical, yeah, because there wasn't a lot put out about that. All right, so let's funny. Okay, so when you posted the stream and I saw an image of the Maxx, I thought there was an industry news about it. I looked back in 2019, Channing Tatum and producing a movie, but the Maxx, but no word since. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he. When I made this thumbnail yesterday, Forth thought it was something else going on. So, but that's it, guys. I mean, I don't have any more words to describe the Maxx for you other than if you get a chance, watch the cartoon and read the books. It deals with stuff, like I said, that I think it's cathartic for a lot of people who are going through things, because it shows you what you'll do when you're up against things. Your psyche comes up with defense mechanisms to keep you from being hurt, to save you from the awfulness, to save you from thinking about it and dwelling on it. And that's actually a clinical thing. And for them to use that, and it's almost like a Jacob Ladder situation, to where you're viewing these things,
or a sucker punch situation.
Yeah, you're viewing these things into a vision that is not necessarily not false, but it's not the everyday life. And the why, as you read into the Maxx, it's the why. It's not even the big purple monster. It's not even the curvaceous girls and the crazy serial killers. It's none of that. The core of the Maxx is the why. Why are we saying this? Why are you here? Why is there an Outback? Why is Mr. Gone the way he is? Why is his daughter the way she is? What the tying together of the guilt she feels for hitting the homeless guy that eventually comes into the Maxx. That's how she mentally brings him into this world. And all of it is underscored by Sam Keith's beautiful art and his covers. Like I said, I used the thumbnail for the Maxx #2. I actually have that copy signed by him. The Maxx #2 is one of my favorite covers of that era of comics. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Oops, now we're gonna change. Yeah, well, all we did is change the background, but I had the picture somewhere. But yeah, I use that one, and immediately when I thought about doing the Maxx, I immediately thought of that. I knew that was the cover I was going to use. That was the cover I was going to use, and I couldn't wait to talk about the Maxx. I wish I could go further with you guys, but this is one of those things where you guys are going to pick up the Maxx or watch the Maxx, and you're going to have your own interpretation of it. And I think that's by design, because of what it is, because it's literally it's a story about people who are interpreting what they're going through various different ways that all create this mutual space. I think the reader or the viewer is going to do the exact same thing, especially if that reader or viewer is going through something or has been through something that mirrors what they're going through. If unfortunately, heaven forbid, you've been raped, or you've dealt with suicide, or you've dealt with guilt. I mean, these are emotions that everyday people go through in different various forms. So when you pick up the Maxx, you're relate to that IP differently than me or you would. So I can only bring you to the point to where I'm like, Please pick this up if you haven't read it yet. Please watch it if you haven't read it yet. I think it's one of those special things that only come along that is uniquely expressive in that point. And like I said, the Sandman was the other one of the other ones I can bring, and the Crow was another one. These are things because you can read a superhero story, and don't get me wrong, I love superhero stuff. I love the fantastical. I love dealing with Galactus. I love dealing with Lex Luthor, Kryptonians, Daxamites, everything you want to throw at me. I love that. But I can't relate to some fool that can fly at the speed of sound, even if he entertains me. I can't relate to a billionaire completely. His other issues I can, but a billionaire that can pretty much, build a cave under his mansion that I don't own. I can't relate to an Amazon that can fly and is 5,000. I can't relate to that. I can relate to all these other things. Either I can relate to the things that the Maxx puts forth, or I know someone who has, and I see these stories and through them. So my recommendation. This is more of a recommendation. Everything I bring you as far as turning point storylines, I always recommend you read. But this is one of the ones I want you guys to read, and I want to hear from you. I want more than any other series I put forth so far. I want to hear how you interpreted the Maxx, given your life circumstances, given your situations, how you related to these characters. Because this character, the Maxx, even though it's fantastical and it's really ridiculous looking sometimes, it is told from a human level, a human point of view, and human understanding. So those of you guys that are reading this, get back to me in the comments or whatever, and let me know. Hey, once that you're reading it for the first time, or if you've read it before, if you're watching this in the replay and you've read it before, let me know what you thought of that and how you related to it, because that's really what the heart of the story is. Sam Keith's artwork is just a tool to make that happen. A great tool, by the way. So there you go. All right. Forget Bane.
Maxx.
Oh yes. I really doesn't. I never want to see Bane on big screen again. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you mentioned you're not the biggest fan of the Bane as a character.
Yeah, worst villain Batman. I haven't gotten a proper Ra's al Ghul, but I got Bane. And
I've always said that Oded Fair. It's like he would. I always thought he'd make a really great Ra's al Ghul.
Not the way he was interpreted in that one. And if you look at even though visually, you don't always have to be Ra's al Ghul, Asian, Southwestern descent. But even then, even if you had Liam Neeson play him, he's a great actor. He just didn't. That wasn't Ra's al Ghul in my opinion. I've read tons of that. It's one of my favorite Batman villain. And I had such high hopes when I found out that was going to be the case, and especially with Liam Neeson. I mean, come on, man. You can't get that much. No, I was let down. So I have yet to see, in my opinion, a true version. So Dave Bautista. Actually, remember I bought before we had you on, I think. I actually bought up Dave Bautista as Ross before Bane. A lot of people bought up Bane in there. I would rather see him play not Bane, or see him play the Maxx than Bane. And I know he wants to play Bane, but I think that Ra's al Ghul would actually test him in a way that Bane would not. And I think Dave Bautista, from what I've heard from him in his interviews, is he takes roles that put him in a much more challenging space. So that's just my opinion. All right, Midnight Me, Daniel Martin, do the animated movie. If you enjoy it, then pick up the comics where it ends. It's fascinating. It is. And it's done very well. All right. But it's like Brad must be using AOL dial-up.
Yeah, I don't know what that keeps happening for.
All right. Let's see. And at the end of this, I'm gonna drop the chat link into the thing, and then we can talk to some of you guys. And I'm horrified of what I'm gonna.
Oh, well, I'm sure is gonna take the opportunity.
It's probably a horrible idea, to this, but he probably won't even come on. Let's see. I got the Maxx out of the way. We got the strike talk that wasn't even on the schedule out of the way. Let's see. I got a poem from Fourth that I probably could have life without. All right, we got the Maxx, which is one of my main thing. And the next thing I'm going to bring up is actually this is actually promotional. Yes, I'm a shill. I'm promoting this movie, so I really got I wouldn't put it on my show necessarily if I didn't want you guys to go see.
We were talking, of course, a little bit about the creator earlier, and it's like, yeah, let's dig in because I am so ready for this.
I love this poster. By the way, I have this poster here, obviously.
I mean, this looks like he brought some of his some of the visual effects acumen and different things that he Gareth Evans took, man, when he was on a Rogue One. It's like he took that and like plugged a lot of that into Creator. I think you can see that from the poster there.
Yeah, and there looks to be a little bit of Star Wars in it. Looks to be a little bit of Terminator in it. But you could definitely see that this is the guy who made Rogue One. Rogue One being my second favorite Star Wars movie after Empire Strikes Back. So, but like I said, this movie wasn't on the radar of a lot of people.
Yeah, the trailer. I think I remember first seeing the trailer maybe like a month and a half ago, and it was one of those ones that just kind of snuck up on you because it wasn't something that was announced and like entered production with a whole lot of fanfare because it's not built on any pre-existing IP, even though, like we said, it has definitely, it's definitely a kindred spirit to Terminator and Star Wars, but it's like you got an interesting fall with the like new sci-fi properties between the Creator and Rebel Moon.
Yeah, I know. Hey, take over for me for a second. I got to pull something down from a wall, a frame from a wall for a customer. Hold on.
Okay, guys. While he's doing that, I'm gonna check out some of your questions here. I can't actually pull them up though, so I'll just have to read them off. You'll have to follow with me here. Let's see numbers here. I'm going to go back to Expendables a little bit. Some of these questions we got here. Expendables 2 is the best with the best villain named Villain. Yeah, Expendables 2 is my favorite of the series, and that's the one of the whole franchise that I think really delivers on that promise of you're getting like all these 80s and 90s action guys into one ensemble, and everybody really just kind of get it's their really big moment in the spotlight. I mean, a lot of people point out that Jet Li, kind of his role was lessened as the series went on, which is definitely true. Although he was going through some health problems at the time that he's fortunately got over. But like, I mean, he steals the beginning of it, his fight scene, and then I mean, again, everybody just got like their big like show-stopping moment. Scott Adkins, that's when he was making a name for himself and really breaking out. It's like I've actually interviewed Scott 8 times, so I've followed his career for a really long time. So I was really gratified to see him, really kind of jump into the Expendables franchise. And like I said, then he jumped into another Expendables style movie called Triple Threat, which again, I'll plug again. If you haven't seen that, give that a look. It's a very economical action movie, and so is Expendables 2, and that's the way I like it. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, more with Chap here. You're with Brad. I love the Expendables movies, and even like the third one. Go for it with the fourth one, man. But it felt like Expendables lost a lot of its essence for me in this fourth one, which is really sad because it's like this series is like it's something that's action movies, martial arts, Hong Kong. That's all stuff that's very near and dear to my heart. Something I grew up with. So the series is really tailor made for somebody like me, and following it as with the fervor that I did the first three, I was really looking forward to the comeback with this one, and it just felt like they really it just didn't have the magic this time. And again, with Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais, you're getting these martial arts legends in it, and you're just chopping their fight scenes into this incomprehensible mess. It's like why do you bring them in if you're not going to let's see what they can do? I don't understand the logic of that. But I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that, but that's just my takeaway. I mean, hopefully, people actually do get some enjoyment out of it. I mean, they are back at being rated R. We'll say that it is definitely a very R-rated one. And Chappie also said, while 3 is definitely the weakest of the original 3, had a lot of fun. Like with Die Hard 4, the unrated. Yeah, they do. The third one, it is improved by the unrated version. And the first one also is actually too with the director's cut. Like the Dolph Lundgren and Jet Li fight in the first one, that's a lot clearer. That's because they did have the editing was a little fast in the theatrical version. They cleared that up, very well in the first one. So I really like that. So first two, I speak very, very highly of. Triple Threat, I speak very, very highly of. 3, I'm okay with. 4, not so much.
Oh, we're talking about
I was going on my Expendables rant again while you were away.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I was gone for that one.
Yeah.
But
did you do a promo for that? I don't think I remember. Yeah.
No, I didn't do any promo for that.
Well, really, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like this might be one of the ones where it's like it almost is like the studio might even know they don't have a great one on their hands. Yeah. I mean, the marketing is very muted on it.
Get it to streaming.
It's going to be within a month.
Streaming.
It's going to be within a month.
Probably sooner than probably within a month. You're right. All right, The Creator, rated PG-13, release date September 29th, 2023. I'm seeing it on Tuesday. Genre action. This is from Fox's website though, so they wanted me to read it straight from there. Amidst the future war between the human race and the forces of artificial intelligence, Joshua Washington, David Washington, a hardened ex-special forces agent grieving the disappearance of his wife, Jimmy Chan, and is recruited to hunt down and kill the Creator, the elusive architect of advanced AI who has developed a mysterious weapon with the power to end the war and mankind itself. Joshua and his team of elite operatives journey across enemy lines into the dark heart of AI occupied. That's a lot of vowels. Occupied territory, only to discover that the world-ending weapon he's been instructed to destroy is an AI in the form of a young child. Directed by Gareth Edwards, screenplay by Gareth Edwards and Chris Waits, produced by Gareth Edwards. Cast is John David Washington, Jim Chan, Ken Watanabe, who's in everything, Sturgill Simpson, Madeline Una Voiles, and Allison Janney, Academy Award winner. I want to play this Jimmy Chan, Miss Eternal.
Yeah.
So I guess he finds his missing wife because there she is in the damn promo.
Yeah.
There's John David Washington.
Another thing too, also kind of a commonality I'll mention with a lot of what we've had to say from our reaction to the Rebel Moon trailers. I feel like there's also going to be a lot of cosplay inspired out of the Creator.
Well, if you look at the current AI and that one creepy android that like almost human, it looks exactly like this kid.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's for the budget for this to be only $80 million, they really, they got the most bang for their buck that they possibly could from the look of it. I don't know how they did this movie under 80 million, but you know what? Because just a lot of the animatronics alone probably had to be built, unless they basically got a robotic company to donate use of them. That right there is cool. I mean, this ever since I saw the trailer, these are all robots. So, and that can't be cheap the way they got them to move, unless they, like I said, unless they were pre-existing and they got an AI company to, or not AI company, but a robotics company to say, hey, we'll let you use our stuff, like product placement and stuff. There's Allison Janney. There's the Creator. I mean, there's just a lot in here. There's a lot of imagery in here that's great. I just can't wait to see. There's another, there's Ken Watanabe. He's also AI. And this is AI occupied territories where they're at. So there's the visuals from the movie. I know what? I have been authorized to play a trailer. I just don't know which one will not trip up the algorithm. I don't feel like getting kicked off the internet today. So we'll play it safe today. Looks like Brad, what are you plugged into tonight, man? So yeah, the Creator, I am going to see it this Tuesday. Man, it's like this motorcycle show. You guys can probably hear it in the all right, you guys are talking about Expendables 4, need to Ja Rule. Daniel just watched the unrated version. Ja Rule, why didn't they get Steven Seagal? Oh, jeez. Oh, now we're going into We're going into whenever we bring up Steven Seagal, that means my show is going into a place where I don't want it to go. All right, Rhea. You've got mail.
Yeah, that's like, if that happens again, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I just tried it again, my desktop. If that happens again, I'm just gonna have to be and just move over to my phone.
Okay. Oh my God, another good topic for the future. Best hard rock.
Yeah, that would be
videos.
Good.
More genres to come. Metallica's One comes to mind. Just about every Aerosmith video comes to mind.
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses makes great videos.
Damn straight.
Yeah, then there's other bands that don't, but we might move that over once we get done with the actual albums themselves. That's a good
yeah, that's a good idea. But yeah, did I miss anything big about the commentary on the creator?
Nah, not yet. I'm just going to the account.
But yeah, let's see. John, no, I think he's actually. You might be trolling us again. It's fourth but
yeah, we never know.
But I think he's actually he's really making a name for himself. It's between like things like BlacKkKlansman and Tenet. It's like he's I think he's really kind of establishing.
He's the best thing about Tenet, and there's not a lot of good in it.
Yeah, it's the one Chris Nolan movie I can't make heads or tails of. But it's like no, it's like I'm really liking him so far.
I want to open my door, but they got this motorcycle thing going on.
We got a comment actually down here saying that they're doing donuts in the parking lot, or it says I'm doing donuts in your parking lot right now.
Oh, she might be because they're. I mean, dude, they're cool guys. So these biker guys over here, they got like a little biker club. There's a lot going on here tonight. They're cool. Some of them even come in here, but they just make a lot of noise. All right. Let's see. Get those likes up. Yeah, where are we at with likes? Let me see. Hold on. I gotta add my like. We actually have 14 likes. So that's not pretty good. We could always use more. Always like, subscribe, and share. I'm growing my little network. We're way ahead of the game on a lot of different things. Our Patreons going up there now.
But anyway, like I was saying a minute ago, it's like it really is, from what we see in the trailers and the marketing. I mean, for this budget to only be $80 million, I mean, that is really impressive with what they've produced.
Yeah, and he's if you look at the shots, it's CGI. The jungle, just like Gareth Edwards' first movie, Monster. So the budget is down. Plus, where they shot it probably cost beans. Not all CGI is cheap though, isn't it?
Nah, man. Well, again, we got CGI with like a kid there who's like got a hole through his head where the ears would normally be.
Yeah, and an adult,
yeah.
with half his head gone. So, wait for next weekend. I'm seeing Creator Friday and Saturday. Okay, cool. I'm gonna see it Tuesday, and I'm gonna put a review up on the channel. Gareth learned budgeting overseas and learned a tight budget with a ton wasted on reshoots later from Disney. He learned what to do and what not to do regarding budget on Netflix. Yeah, and then Zack Snyder's another guy who's done that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But like 300 costs $65 million, and it looks like it costs 200.
Yeah, midnight. Oh, why do they upgrade?
All their
why do they upgrade their bodies?
Fourth, you ever gonna like give us like a straightforward just yes or no question?
The Creator and Dune 2 were on my list for top 2 films of the year.
It's wait till March, and you think that's still going to get bumped again, with or without the strike being resolved?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense now to release it in March. Why you're not going to make the kind of money that you want to make? Why don't depending on what gets released now? Maybe because the summer's going to be packed.
Which that's another thing. Hopefully a lesson they've taken from this past summer with like how crowded it was and how much to the detriment that came to a lot of things.
But if you want to make your money and get that Oscar buzz, a lot of times they will release the movies right in December. That's why this movie was going to be released when it was going to get released this year.
Well, do you think it might get bumped again to like next October or November 2024?
Possibly. It all depends.
I mean, that's a whole year bump. Yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty.
Yeah. So it just. Brad. You're doing donuts in the parking lot. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I saw that. Where it's like,
going. That's what. Chappie wants in. Okay. All right. Now I got some.
I'm sure you do have controversy. You got controversial statements on damn near everything, man.
Yeah, I'm just not going to let you in. So we got to get some IMDb screenshots popping the combat these trailer snipes.
Yeah.
That's true. They probably leave it open because they need to ventilate the heat from their systems like your computer does. Good point.
That's not a bad theory, actually, for you're talking about like the for like cyborg anatomy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. The next topic I'm going to bring up that's in my thumbnail is is something that has gotten. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna, there's a couple here that were, again, a couple here from me I wanted to answer. Again, these kind of relate back to Expendables, but I didn't want to leave them hanging there.
Where are they at?
There's one starting up here with Mr. Midnight Meat Roll. He said Expendables was dead when they announced Mega Fox. Yeah, I mean she gives it. She puts a lot of energy into it as far as like, but I don't. So you think about it is too. You take that role, Polanski. Yeah, it was a good try at her, but I feel like really that's the thing about John Wick and the 8711 guys is like those guys can take anybody and make turn them into an action star. I mean, because you've seen them do that with Halle Berry and Shamir Anderson, and even with Keanu Reeves, with the training he already had. It's like they really made anybody look like a fighting machine. And that 50 Cent, yeah, it's like so much of the team isn't even there for the fourth one too. So yeah, that's why. Down, and he also said, "I feel like American action has learned nothing from Gareth Evans and The Raid." Yeah, The Raid. If you haven't seen The Raid, what the hell? I mean, it's a modern classic. I mean, it's just get on that. So then, yeah, Numbers asked me, "How is meeting Scott Adkins in person?" He was here much between. I need to clarify. I have not met Scott in person. Really, I can't even like. As far as interviews I've done for Kung Fu Kingdom or Screen Rant, it's like I haven't like met any of them in person. But these have been by Zoom or by phone. So, because I haven't met Scott or Michael Jai White or any of those guys in person, but it's a real privilege being a fan of their work to be able to do that, to speak to them. And with Scott, yeah, he's a real he's a real awesome guy to talk to, and I pretty much expect it to annually happen, or I'm interviewing him about something, and yeah, he's really awesome to talk to. And Spider-Man also asked me how high or low I rent Donnie Yen's Flashpoint. Then no, that's another one that's like, if you haven't seen that, that's just top tier. And he's actually got a Flashpoint 2 and an Ip Man 5 in the works. In Flashpoint 2, apparently like Scott Adkins might be a part of that. And Ip Man 5 is interesting because have you seen any of the Ip Man movies, William? Because those are the ones about where Donnie plays Bruce Lee's teacher.
You're talking about the video game one, right?
No, Ip Man, where Donnie Yen plays Bruce Lee's teacher. No. Yeah, they had Ip Man for the finale, which Scott is also in. He's pretty ubiquitous in the genre, and it ends in such a way where it's like, without spoiling anything, it's called Ip Man for the finale. You would be justified in thinking it's the last one. So I don't know how they're going to manage that. I'm looking forward to it, but I've thought of that actually whenever William makes the point as it relates to Snyderverse stuff, when you say math is undefeated. I kind of think to that when that news broke about Ip Man 5, it's like, yeah, with the way Ip Man 4 ends and now they're doing an Ip Man 5, it's like, yeah, if the math is there, they're going to find a way to make it happen. So
right. If people like something, they want more. It's that simple. It's really quick. It's not rocket science. If people like something, they want more. That's why you have shared universes. That's why you have franchises. Right. No, I have not. Have you?
I've seen that floating around, but I haven't gotten the chance to pull that up yet. So I'm going to give that a look as soon as I can.
Okay, I haven't seen it. Plot twist, Brad is asking. Yeah, we're both sharing the same shitty internet. All right, so
sorry to kind of divert from the topics over there. I just saw a few questions that were directed at me, and again, they pertain to my Expendables sort of crisis of faith there. So I did want to address a little bit of that.
All right. I spoke on this during the week, during the semi-overnighters and the Midnight Express. For those of you who have ever heard me anywhere on YouTube, you know how I regard Rebels and Clone Wars, which is I don't. I think they both suck. I think they have some stuff in there that's valuable in isolation, but as a whole, I find both of them relatively unwatchable.
Keep talking. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Okay, but but I have enjoyed Ahsoka. And I've been answering the question for those of you who, have not watched Rebels or Clone Wars. Do you need to watch it? It will enhance, because I've watched them, and it will enhance your understanding of it and your familiarization. But on a story-wise level, I think it's pretty simple. And the characters that rely on Rebels for your understanding are still as useless to me as they were in the cartoon and the animation. Episode 6 reminded me just how worthless Ezra and Sabine are to me as far as story narrative. I just have no use for them, and I had less use for them in this episode. But that's not what I was tuning in for. As you know, I tuned in for this show not because I gave a rat's ass about the character of Ahsoka Tano, not that I care about Ezra, not that I care about any of the characters from that cartoon or any of the animation. I tuned into this because once I found out that Grand Admiral Thrawn was going to be there, I was down. That's all you needed. Now, it has turned into a series I've rather enjoyed. I think it does have a strong story. I think it does lay the groundwork. And if it sets it up to, if you do want to go back and torture yourselves by watching Clone Wars or Rebels, you can. And it will enhance the story for you. I didn't need it to enjoy it, so I'm not going to do that to myself again. Grand Admiral Thrawn is a character that predates all of that, though, as far as like his where he's at in creation. Grand Admiral Thrawn was brought about in a trilogy of books called the Thrawn trilogy, and the first one being Heir to the Empire. So back in an era where I wasn't sick of seeing us in this neighborhood of the Skywalker Ranch, basically, for 40 years, I was still intrigued by characters that they were bringing about and what was called the expanded universe at the time. Now, they even admitted that, this stuff's not canon, but, we'll put it on our site. But Lucas has already said that it's not, we just basically took it because we didn't have anything. Remember in 1991, when Grand Admiral Thrawn first hit the books, we had been without Star Wars for 8 years or so. And we were 8 more years away from being having another one in 1999. So to me, things like Grand Admiral Thrawn, Knights of the Old Republic, Freedom Nad, Dark Lords of the Sith, those were Star Wars for me. And those storylines, for the most part, at least the non-Thrawn stuff, did not utilize the Skywalkers at all. They were thousands of years in the future. But the one extension that I did enjoy was this character, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And to me, the way he's written in the books and the way he's brought to life in the screen, I thought, and I know there's going to be a lot of disagreement on that, I thought that they were dead on with the, as far as where he would be. Now, he's in different circumstances than he was in the book, because obviously that the original one, the original Thrawn is not canon necessarily to this one. So circumstances has changed. He's a little bit, bulkier, but he's, we're talking about the when the original series came out, when the original trilogy came out, Thrawn trilogy came out, it was 5 years. It was the same 5 years afterwards. So we were still doing the same time period. But I love the way he looked. I love the way he sound. I know that he was the same voice previously, but it didn't mean anything to me. What you do in animation as far as voiceover, that's great. Whoopi. Seeing him walk out there, seeing the atmosphere that they created with those stormtroopers, who I believe to be all dead and basically resurrected life forms by the Night Sisters, seeing the use of the Night Sisters and how they've been incorporated into all this has me hooked. It has me, even though this was my least favorite overall episode, it had some of my favorite moments. Like I said, seeing Grand Admiral Thrawn after basically 31 years of wondering if I ever see this character on the big screen. And I never thought I would, be honest with you, because I didn't think they would go in the territory, that would bring him about in the right way. Now, jury's still out because I have to see the story now. But so far, so good. Did you watch episode 6 of Ahsoka, Brad?
I feel like I'm always like one episode behind everybody on Ahsoka, so I'm just getting onto that. But yeah, I've been enjoying the show. So it's probably like coming in number 2 for me behind the Mandalorian. So with everything we're saying, I don't think I have quite as much apathy for Rebels as you do. But yeah, it's like I'm liking where they're going with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they take him.
All right, that dude Vance. Rebels made Thrawn canon again. So, yeah, okay, sure.
By the way, you got a great one down here. Where or I should say, I have one, and this would normally come from fourth, but it's from Anthony, where he asked me, Brad, how happy are you that there's going to be a live Patreon stream viewing of the greatest superhero movie of all time, Howard the Duck? It'll be a night to remember.
Yeah, or forget, one of the two. All right, but I like Mads Mikkelsen as an actor to begin with. I mean, for those of you who want to see him in his top form, go watch Hannibal, the TV series Hannibal. Yeah. That needs to get a finish, by the way. Needs to get more seasons. All the shows that I like, not just getting canceled and stupid stuff stays on the air forever.
Oh, in the Badlands, that's one that I'm always heartbroken ended because especially because I've interviewed people who were a part of it, and they've told me about stuff about where it was meant to go in the next season. It's like, revive that and put that on Maxx, even as like a 2-hour movie finale.
And I always go back to the most heartbreaking criminal one, and that's Sarah Connor Chronicles Terminator.
That was pretty good. Yeah, you're talking about taking Terminator from the from movies to TV. That actually did a pretty good job with it. And the funny thing about that too is I just had an article go about this about probably a week ago, where I said the unique thing. This maybe plays a little bit into the creator about Terminator is that it's unique in that it's a franchise that has 3 different part 3s. It has Terminator 3, it has Sarah Connor Chronicles, and it has Dark Fate.
Yeah, some of them good, some of them not. But I enjoyed this episode. Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight. Do they recast Balin or kill him off screen? Well, no. He finished this. This was done. Yeah, he finished this before he passed away. He was working on another movie in Italy when he died. Once again, he is excellent in this. He is great in this. I mean, I am. The more I watch and the more I realize I'm not going to get, unless they decide to kill him, and then it wouldn't really matter. But if they continue on his character and I don't get more, just the fact I'm not going to get more Ray Stevens in general at that age.
Oh yeah, that hurt. And he's, to go back to what I was saying about Scott Adkins. He's if you haven't seen the Accident Man movies, that's based on a British comic title about this hitman, and kind of makes his hits look like accidents. So it's a black comedy action series, but. He's kind of like his best buddy. Big Ray is the character's name, so he's kind of like his best friend. But they have a bit of a falling out, and their chemistry is awesome. It's freaking hilarious. So if you haven't seen Accident Man and the sequel, Accident Man: Hitman's Holiday, give those a look. I mean, obviously for Scott and the ensemble, but also Ray Stevenson. He gives a really great comedic performance in that.
He'll always be Isaac Serco to me in Dexter.
What do you now? Where would you kind of rank in kind of his pantheon? Well, because he had 2 Marvel roles. He was the Punisher in Punisher Warzone, and then he was Volstagg in the Thor movies. So where would you kind of place those?
Well, I regard the Thor movies as trash. So I guess we'll go with Punisher.
Punisher Warzone I've always found kind of underrated.
Yeah, and like I said, he's always going to be Isaac Serco. For those of you Dexter fans out there. He played a Ukrainian mobster who went after Dexter that year. Okay, Night Sisters were part of the best arcs in the Clone Wars. Yeah, visually they were kind of cool, and they've transferred that over. So if you want to dive into what the Night Sisters are, you definitely there's enough material there for you. I am choosing not to because I got enough. Let's see. To me, Grand Admiral Thrawn is a perfect example of an anti-hero. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He doesn't care about the Republic or the Rebellion. It's his people that he cares about. And in his original form, he's characterized differently. So based on what is now canon, I'd have to agree with that. But you got to realize his character has been reinterpreted too. The High Republic may or may not be good. Disney just wants control. I say bring in the Old Republic. I say bring in the Old Republic as well. Yeah, I say bring in RIP. Yes. We just did not get enough. criminal that it was made. Termination FBI. Okay, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get rid of you. The show is awesome. Okay, William. What's your opinion on Top Gal to Darkness? That was great. That was Mark Silvestri. That was what he left Marvel for. That was his first thing. Yeah, let's see.
Anything I'm back. I don't know what the hell. This never happens until like tonight. It decides.
I know. Yeah, you've been pretty good on this one. I'm 100% Thrawn will be in Filoni's movie. Good, and I hope it's Oh, Warzone was terrible.
Okay, there's one here. I think
the movie was.
I like Warzone. I thought. Well, I mean, it's a little over the top, but I felt like as far as what you liked him as a opponent. Yeah, he wasn't bad. Tom Jane. I got to interview him a while back too. He was funny too when I interviewed Thomas Jane because I sort of likened him to. He's the closest I think I've ever come to meeting Jack Burton from Baby Rebel in Little China in real life because he's got that kind of personality. It's like I've been everywhere, but I know it's a pretty amazing planet we live on here.
And of course, Fourth 1000 is going to take it to the Night Sisters. Sounds sleazy.
There's one here that I think is kind of for me the numbers left or why make Ip Man 5 instead? They could do a Bruce Lee spinoff and use the guy from Man 4. I mean, I would say do both. I mean, because again, going back to Williams' math is undefeated mantra, it's like divide and conquer. Do them. I mean, they already did an Ip Man spinoff about the antagonist in the third one. They made him the hero of his own story, and it's called Master Z, Ip Man Legacy. So. I mean, you're giving do them both. I mean, give Ip Man 5 and the Bruce Lee spinoff.
Don't take half the money, take all the money.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right.
That's what we've been trying to tell WB to do with their DC stuff for God knows how long.
This is where greed does work for you. Yeah. Everybody laugh at Fourth, turning my chat room into his damn own Grindr account here. All right. Has anyone... I saw the actual one.
That's not bootleg. What are you talking about? Fourth hijacking your account there.
Yeah. All right. So real quick on that one, and I'm going to get to our last topic, and then we're going to bring in which I'll probably regret bringing in the chat. All right, so now we're going to go on to our album of the week, which is Van Halen's 5150. Their best album, in my opinion. Now, this album was the reason why this was a huge turning point. It was the very first album that was released after the departure of David Lee Roth. And I remember growing up as a kid, there was this big war because even Warner Brothers did not want Warner Brothers Records did not want Van Halen to go forward with the name Van Halen. They said maybe you guys should go with a different name, and Eddie Van Halen told him to go fuck off because that's his name. I mean, you're telling him not to use the band was based on his name. So I put the Van Hagar era. I rank as far as the albums go, 5150 is number one for me.
Yeah, I said the hell with it. I'm done dealing with that. You might have to hear a few echoes. I got to figure out what the hell StreamYard's doing on my internet tonight.
Okay, so it goes 5150. Okay, it goes 5150 for me. OU812. Then we go on into For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Balance was probably my least of those albums, and obviously you have the two live albums, or the one live album is the double release. So there you go. There is the there's the album cover. The album cover has a bodybuilder with a big, huge gold chain around his neck with the letters and with the numbers 5150. 5150 was basically it's the police code for escaped lunatic. and it's also the name of Eddie Van Halen's studio where he recorded all of this stuff. So he decided to name it then.
Awesome. Got it.
This was this was released in 1986. Like I said, just after the release of 1984, which was David Lee Roth's last album. Now, this was also being released at the same time David Lee Roth had embarked on his solo career, Crazy from the Heat and all that stuff. Which, by the way, on his own, I think David Lee Roth is brilliant. As a lead singer of Van Halen, I would rather have Sammy Hagar every day of the week and twice on Sundays. I just think that this album took a band that was a isolation party band, which were and if you want to use the song "A Hop for Teacher" off of 1984, it opens with a drum solo, pretty much, and then it follows with Eddie's guitar riff, and then a whole bunch of other things come in separately, and then the whole album is basically them being the best individual performances that they can be. And to me, pre Sammy Hagar, I always thought that that's what Van Halen was. You had the best guitar player, you had a great bass player, you had a great drummer, and they were putting on an individual show, and you had fun watching and listening to them. When it came to Sammy Hagar, now there was song being done. Now there was melody being done. All those things were still true. You still had the best guitar player. You still had an excellent drummer. You still had Mike Anthony on it. But Sammy's range made all of that work together into a song. His voice took them and the instruments and to places where they had not gone in the previous albums. You had David Lee Roth, and this is not knocking David Lee Roth. It's just depending on what you want out of your music, they provided two different things. David Lee Roth was an MC in front of a party band. With Sammy Hagar, he was a lead singer in front of a musical group. Just how I feel about it. Some of the best stuff that they ever produced came from this album. The title track 5150, Why Can't This Be Love? Dreams, Hot Summer Nights, which has an awesome opening. It has a guitar solo opening, but then it bleeds into the whole band. Love Walks In, and if you ever saw them live in the mid '80s, Sammy actually is playing the guitar on that, and on when you see them live, while Eddie actually is on the keyboards. And like I said, it was just an entirely different band. The dynamics of it were just great. The visuals of it were just great. Sammy Hagar already had a full-on career behind him. He was 38 when he joined this band in 1986. And he joined the band because the people that worked on both their cars, both their Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff, they all knew each other, and they made the connection through that. And because he was looking at people like Linda Ronstadt and all that, and like I said, the record company did not want them to go forward with the name Van Halen. And back then, it was a big, huge risk. Not very many lead singers are successful with new bands. The only one from that era that I can really think of that really knocked it out of the park for early to mid 80s was AC/DC, who chose Brian Jones as a necessity because Bon Scott passed away. And even that was met with a lot of skepticism until Back in Black came out and did bonkers. And the same thing here. When they first announced Sammy Hagar as the lead singer, everybody was like, this isn't going to work. This is going to bomb. They're not going to sell anything. Obviously, it was a number one album that came out, and each album that they released in that era up until Balance was released at the top of the charts.
And a little bit of a little bit of trivia here from the Wikipedia page. The album hit number one on the Billboard 200 charts, passing their previous album 1984, which had peaked at number two behind Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah,
so it's big when you're doing that big.
which was knocked out with Thriller, which was knocked out of the number one spot by an album we did last week, I think, in Pyromania. So there you go. They did a live interpretation of this called Live Without a Net, and which was them in concert in New Haven, Connecticut. And when they did the Best of Both Worlds, I mean, there was just every song on this album, and not every song got released. It beats out OUA12 by a hair. OUA12 is probably an even bigger hit for them. How does it feel when it's love? See, Sammy's voice took them places where David just could not. And the music, and to his defense, with Roth's defense, the music wasn't engineered around the talents of David Lee Roth. It was, when there was, I just feel that there was more that the artist could do when Sammy took the helm than there was when Roth was there. So here we go. Here we go. Sorry, William. Hell no. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I knew this was gonna be a unleash the link. We'll get to the link where oh hell no, the cornball Sammy Hagar. Oh, okay, Grinder, why Grinder? Yeah. Look at your name and then ask yourself that question.
By the way, a little bit of you might find reason to make more jokes about my age with this little tidbit. A little bit of a personal trivia for me relating to my discovery of Van Halen and with this house. As I first heard Dreams, it was played during the end. It was kind of the ending song, the outro end credits song for the first Power Rangers movie in '95. So that was really my first point where I discovered Van Halen. It was a very young age, and I remember when Jason David Frank passed, when he died. There were actually quite a few tributes that actually brought it was a little bit more mellow of a cover of Dreams, so they brought that back in a lot of JDS tributes. So a Van Halen song that's very near and dear to me.
Same here. William, what guitar picking style did Eddie Van Halen revolutionize to where it influenced guitarists that followed him in the 90s? And well, his style, I always thought he mimicked Hendrix's style. I never really because a lot of what he was doing was basically an evolution of what Hendrix had done. Yeah, almost everybody who influenced, even some of his contemporaries, even Pete Townsend. That's why I always interpreted it. But let me look up something real quick. Eddie likes to take a pattern and hammering on the notes on the string, then alternate pick with the same pattern adjacent string. Okay, yeah. Rest in peace to both Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix. I always thought that, to me, he got that from Jimi Hendrix, because Jimi Hendrix, if you look at the time that he was around, no one was doing that like that. That was very rare. And now Eddie Van Halen did it a lot longer, but the hammering, I always thought was the Hendrix thing. That's what I always associated with, but that's what music is. All right, Brad.
And I decided it's work with me. I'm going to take it one more time. I'm just going back on my laptop. It seemed to be stabilizing with the internet there.
1986.
I had it briefly there on my phone and my laptop at the same time.
Oh, okay. 1986 was the year I was born, and it was and that year Van Halen went downhill. You know what, Azteca?
That's such a transparent, I mean, are you trying? Are you trying to
a lot of death metal? I think they're all trying to follow his lead. A lot of death metal, melodic metal bands had a Van Halen style added to their guitar work in the 90s and 2000s. Yeah. A lot of them did. A lot of them that didn't even make it big did, but a lot of them did. Even to a certain extent, Megadeth. If you listen to some of their deeper stuff on their B-sides in the late 80s, early 90s, there's a lot of Dave Mustaine's guitar work on that is really melodic. He's one of the guys who does that type of music that I'm aware of, and I'm pretty sure there's more out there, but that I am aware of that can really lay down that type of riff and it actually be melodic to the point, where it's not just abrasive. But that's just, once again, don't come after me. That's just my opinion. That's what this ear hears, but everybody's different. All right. So that was the short version of that. But like I said, I think this album is cool. I think that it brought out facets of Van Halen that you would have never seen with David Lee Roth. You would have never seen. I mean, the band, his voice forced him to go in a direction that I don't think they ever could without him.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting to look back on Van Halen and kind of see like the two phases of both Roth and Hagar, and what what the essence of Van Halen was in both of those periods. And I mean, and then this is definitely one of their like one of their signature albums. And I think you've covered it better than it's like nothing I can add to that.
Yeah, it's just like I said. It's I think he tried a lot more. I think he became a lot more experimental. And if you look at he did a lot of things that he did not do previous in albums, and went on For a Lawful Cardinal Knowledge, playing with drills on the fretboard, just just using revolutionary sounds, because he was always trying. And another guitarist that does this or did this while he was alive for Freddie Mercury was Brian May. Brian May, that's why when I hear other people do Queen songs and the new lead singer that they have right now, when I hear that, listen, those people are being put in a bad position no matter how good a lead vocalist you are, because Brian May wrote those songs and extended his range to match Freddie Mercury's voice. It was like they were had a symbiotic relationship with each other. When you hear Queen, if you love Freddie Mercury's voice, and you should,
damn right,
you gotta love Brian May's lead guitar. And if you love Brian May's lead guitar, you by default are loving Freddie Mercury's lead voice. It's just like the two. It's like the two looked at each other and heard each other, and Freddie was singing to the guitar, and the guitar was singing to Freddie, and that's how it's supposed to work. But I think there's certain cases where it works better, and some instances in another. But and those are the two: Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar. I think he brought the best of all of them out.
There was definitely a really great symbiosis between them.
Yeah, and then obviously with Queen, and like I said, I think I don't think Brian May tried. You can't change. You can't change the style of music that Brian May wrote for another lead singer, because that is legendary. You can't. You may be able to write new songs, but then it's a whole new band. So there you go. All right. I am going to do something that.
Are we going to go ahead and start Howard the Duck right now?
No, that's the second thing. That's the second thing I regret doing. Here we go. I'm going to put the chat link in here. I'm not. Listen, some of you guys you ain't getting in.
Yeah, fourth. I mean, it's like it's like you have to behave yourself if you click on that.
Let's see. William, what are your thoughts about my last few comments about Van Halen? Let's look. The guy nobody talks about that had pretty great guitar riffs was the guy with Sex Pistols. Well, a lot of that with the Sex Pistols is because of the Sex Pistols, because there's a lot more about the Sex Pistols, unfortunately, that drowns out their music. A couple of deaths here and there. Oh no. I'm already seeing the back room fill up with people I don't want to talk about.
Bring them. No, more the merrier, man.
William, it's crazy for me.
I saw that earlier with his comment there. I was going to bring that up a minute ago.
It's crazy for me how I found out about Van Halen wasn't because of the records or YouTube. I grew up with the Chipmunks, and they did a movie where it basically did all the rock music.
Yeah.
Have you lost your mind?
No, William, because William, I didn't have where I grew up, like in Miami, we don't really have a lot. The record shops that I grew up around didn't really have a lot of rock music albums. It was mainly Spanish music, Spanish like mariachi music and Spanish music. So I didn't really grow up with a lot of record shops that did a lot of rock music and stuff like that.
Understandable. At least, how you found your way into Van Halen? You found your way. So I can't.
So,
but like I said, me with Power Rangers.
I was asking a question in the chat for you and Brad. I'm not sure if you're able to bring it up. What I was wondering is, did the song "Heavy Metal" for Sammy Hagar come after Van Halen, or did he do that song before. With Van Halen?
He did. No, he did that song before 1980. He did that in 1980 for the soundtrack of for Heavy Metal.
Why did see? It seems like And I was gonna ask, with the catalog specifically with Van Halen, are there certain songs in terms of Eddie's riffs that you think doesn't get enough respect by rock fans in general or Van Halen fans specifically?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Everything that you don't hear on the radio for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. There's a song called Judgment Day that has awesome beginning riffs. There's a song called Dream Another Dream, This Dream Is Over, that has an excellent opening riff. Just about every song that you don't hear on the radio that's for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, I would have to put in that category.
And is Eddie? This is an honest question. Is Eddie like Malcolm Young? No, not Malcolm. Angus. Where when he plays, when he does, he builds up the energy when it comes to the riffs. It doesn't. The song doesn't. Or is he 100% all the way through the song? Do you understand what I'm asking? You know how Brian May and Angus built up through the song. It doesn't start at 100%. Do you know what I'm talking about, William?
Okay, so the difference between Angus Young, especially, and Eddie Van Halen or Brian May is Angus Young had a rhythm guitarist, his brother. And his brother, in a lot of, like we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago, in many ways, his brother drove the riff. His brother drove the track, and Angus could come and go and drive up. Like if you listen to even their modern stuff, Money Talks or anything like that, or for those about to rock, you're hearing that second guitarist, that rhythm guitarist, really drive it home for him, so that there seems like it, to me, in my opinion, a more consistent riff from what Angus and Malcolm did from beginning of song to end of song. It seems like they're taking it from a level that's level and up higher, whereas Eddie and Brian May are, if they're not doing overdubs or they're not doing separate tracks, if they're just doing it as a 4-piece,
do they have to cover up because of their bands not having great rhythm guitarists? Is that what it is? Brian,
no rhythm guitarist.
No, that's why I'm asking. Do you think they have to they have to play at 100% through the song, 100% all the way through, where it sucks up their energy, but they're tired by the time the song ends because they don't have their bands didn't get a rhythm guitarist or bass?
Well, not necessarily, because remember, they wrote those songs that way. They paced those songs. Eddie wrote his music, and Brian May wrote their music. So they paced it that way. Now, when they're performing it live, it's a little bit different.
I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, some bands would bring in a tour guitarist to make it easier, but for the most part, Angus Young and Malcolm Young, they wrote the music together, with just like Def Leppard. Certain bands write their music with.
Did Phil Collin write the music for Def?
For the most part, Phil Collin, and he was the main one. Him and Steve Clark wrote, but for the main one, it was Phil Collin for Def Leppard. Joe Elliott wrote the lyrics, obviously, but as far as the riffs and everything from Pyromania, once they hired Phil Collin, because Phil Collin was their original. Steve.
So he wasn't. Did he do the? Was he the one that did the? Was he the original riff writers for Pour Some Sugar on Me, or was that before him?
No, that was him. That was his second album with Def Leppard. His
I wasn't sure if that was
his first album, his third album. So yeah.
No, and when it comes to back to Van Halen specifically, it seems like like with Eddie specifically, like you said, the record. What possesses these record companies to think they can take away his name like that?
Well, it was a popular sentiment at the time, because for 7 years, or actually no, 10 years, because the band started in 1974. For 10 years, David Lee Roth as the frontman was synonymous with Van Halen. He was who you saw, he was who you heard along with that. So believe it or not, back in the mid 80s, it was a popular sentiment. No one thought that Van Halen could go on without David Lee Roth. And that drove and inspired David Lee Roth Eddie Van Halen to do it in spite of it. And that's why he took a lot of risks. Nobody thought it was going to work with Sammy, even though people liked Sammy Hagar. They knew him from I Can't Drive 55 and everything else. It wasn't. I mean, you're changing the face of the band. And
was any one of these guitars that was able, like, I can't remember. The guy from the Eagles, he's a great guitar. Or James Hetfield, not James. Oh my God, there's a lead singer that plays guitar. Like, he does most of the lead riffs for the band. I can't remember his name now. Was Eddie able to become the lead singer before they chose Sammy Hagar as a replacement for David?
No, he was never considered. He couldn't sing.
He couldn't sing whatsoever.
I love the Maxx in the background, by the way. Fourth, he's got the Maxx on.
Did Van Halen get involved with wrestling, like doing theme songs for WWE for pay-per-views or WCW?
Not directly. Some of their songs were licensed and purchased, but they didn't do it by default now. How you doing, Fourth?
Hey, Fourth.
What's going on? How's everybody?
You finally changed your name to Fourth. It's not Midnight Meat Wars. What happened?
It did happen. I didn't do that. I didn't do anything. It just popped up.
It's when you came into StreamYard, you used your initial name. Oh, who's that?
Yeah.
Is YouTube not allowing you to use it in chats anymore, Fourth?
No.
I changed it twice, and it said that if you do it within this amount of times, you can't change it for 14 days. And I thought the joke
I'm back
was
and forth
greater than
here,
the
I
risk.
see.
Hey, what's going on, Brad?
All right, Anthony, I'm going to rotate you out so I can get some people in. And then I'm going to go forth. All right, guys. So, Anthony, I'm rotating out, and I'm going to bring in Spider-Man. But go ahead, go forth. Go ahead, Forth. You're next up. What's up? What?
I've been trying to get on the show for so long. What? How am I coming in?
I can hear you. I'm waiting.
Yeah,
I'm horrified of what's going to come out of your mouth.
Nothing. I'm just a regular moviegoer, just like anybody else. What are you talking about? I just,
No, you aren't.
Yeah.
No, you are not.
Yeah, you're selling like a book short, man.
If
you're not a regular anything.
If you're truly paying attention to me, which I know you're obligated not to, but you saw how much I lit up in the chat over the conversation about the Maxx. The Maxx was something I actually really, really enjoy. I enjoy movies in general, yeah, but the Maxx, that's something that I'm like, I was excited for the stream.
Yeah, I mean, the Maxx was just like I said, and I think now you have not read the comics, right?
I read all the ones just based on the the MTV animated series. So I read.
Okay.
What did I say? Okay. Yeah. I just read up to where the cartoon ended, and I didn't even know to look for more. I just thought that was the ending of it.
Wow. Did you?
But I read it when I was
at first.
Huh? Yeah. But I read it when it first came out. So I first saw the animated show, and when I got those issues of the comics, I was like, "Oh, okay."
Is that what's playing behind you?
That's what's playing behind me. Are we going to get in trouble for you playing that behind you?
That's why I'm blocking it.
All right.
Yeah.
So if this stream disappears once again, I knew Fourth was going to make one of our streams disappear some way or another. If the stream disappears, he finally did it.
Hey, I strive to be a distraction, but not that big of a distraction.
No, but that show is beautifully done. I mean, in both its mediums. I can say the only knock I have against the animated series is that it didn't go longer. I mean, because it was canceled at that time that it came out. No. It wasn't canceled. That was as much as they could afford to do. That was dude. It was so expensive. That doing what they did was so expensive back then, and comparative to what it is today. Because remember when that was released. Remember what kind of animation was out there. That's actually movie quality animation. Compared to what was coming out in the movie theaters, like Cool World and all those type of things that were coming out. Yeah. And it was Sam Keith frame by frames, basically interpretation. For what MTV had as far as their budget, MTV tried a lot of stuff that they could not afford to do. Like the Spider-Man thing. The Spider-Man show that they did, there was nothing wrong with that. It was just expensive to do.
Oh, are you talking about the one that I think that was Neil Patrick Harris who was voicing up? Yeah, I think I've seen a little bit of that.
But it wasn't bad, and people watched it. But that wasn't MTV's priority at the time. And MTV would, and it was funny because they were the ones that would dabble in everything and get you going on a lot of things, but they would always go back to their priority, which is music videos at that time. And then they jumped into reality TV and all that stuff. But at the time, the Maxx was so revolutionary as far as when it was, because I watched it as it came out. Everything they did on liquid television. There's a reason why liquid television didn't last a long time, because it was expensive. It took a long time for those artists to get that stuff, and it was expensive to facilitate. But no, I wish the Maxx would have been able to last throughout, because these days, if the Maxx came out these days, the Maxx would get the entire run. Like you're gonna get Invincible, you're gonna get Invincible, you're gonna get all of that, and because of the climate it's released in now.
They probably put that on Amazon actually now if they were to do it today.
Yeah, they'd probably put it on.
Do you think that it would need to complete?
For the Maxx, 3 to 4. 3 to 4.
That's perfect.
Maximum.
Yeah.
Maximum.
No, when I watched that animation, like it just did something to me. Just the way it's written, the whimsical, like even the made up words that they use to describe stuff, whatever the colorful language, it's just so poetically written. Plus, the music was really good, and no matter even despite how
it had that buzzbin type of
old, even the surf music that was playing on the radio in the background, which when you get the buy it on Amazon, the music's altered. They put in different tracks. I bought it on like a bootleg DVD. But no, it does something.
We don't use terms like bootleg here, by the way. It's
free DVD.
Yeah,
somebody just passed that. It fell off the truck. But no, that show was something else.
How you doing, Spider-Man 7285?
What's going on, William? It's nice to meet you.
Hey,
nice to Spidey.
What's going on, Brad? Fourth.
Spider-Man.
What's going on, Spider-Man?
So, Fourth, how often are your opinions bullshit, and how often are you actually talking to people?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like you're all over the place, but you seem like, because I usually stand the ground, and I don't know, like William and I don't know, like I got a kindred spirit to some of William's takes, not all of them, but you'll be on one side and then the other on that. So I don't know, like how much of it's trolling, how much of it's like you.
Well, I mean, we have him to thank for our upcoming Howard the Duck stream.
Well, he's sentimental for it. I'm sure. But no, William, man, I love this show, man. You do your thing, man. You need to do a better job of letting us know when it's going to be on. People got to get up in the morning and go to work. I live in Arizona, so everybody else is about to get a time zone change, and I don't. So it's about to be my whole world's about to change. You're going to stop coming on at 12 o'clock, and you're going to start coming on at 1 o'clock. So you got to let us know. You got to let us know.
My schedule, everything is kind of weird right now. Like I said, I've streamed for like 17 nights straight. So
yeah, I've seen that, man.
Roughly in the same general. I try to keep it in the same general area because of what my schedule is. My goal, and it's really super hard because of this place and everything else, is to stream like tonight. I wanted to stream earlier because of people with time differences. We have some people that are international. We have some people who are in the coast, and I figured that 1 hour would make it a lot easier for you guys to tune in live instead of having to catch most of it on the replay. Now, my goal is to.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and my goal is to get a schedule going. It's just there's just so much shit happening, and in October is for my type of business and what we do with science fiction, horror, fantasy. Is a month to where I'm going to be able to do it where I can. Eventually, once we settle down and we get the studio complete there, to where everything is set up there and we're going through OBS and I'm doing my solo streams, then yeah, we're going to have a schedule. It'll most likely be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And like I said a couple months ago, my goal is to get a schedule and just let you guys know that that's it. That if it's a Monday or Wednesday or Friday or a Sunday,
you don't got to do all that. I'm just giving you a hard time because like I said, you're in the middle of the night just popping up 12:30, 12:45. Like what?
It's bad that with StreamYards, it doesn't even let you know sometimes until like I'm on the air. Like the one night I was on 38 minutes, and then StreamYards decided to let me know I was live, which I think was kind of But apparently that's a StreamYard issue that I'm going to work on. But I'm going to work on that. Like I said, with these streams, I'm using StreamYards because it's the best format for this type of format. But for my solo stuff, where I want a lot of effects, OBS will be what I'm switching over to eventually. So,
all right, I got like 3 or 4 hot takes.
I'm going to switch you out, and I'm going to bring in.
I'm gonna
I was
stop
just gonna say before-
capitalizing your time here.
I was just
Number one, why the hell is Spider-Man friends with Norman Osborn, and why is Spider-Man the Green Goblin? Number two, why did Chip Zdarsky have Batman survive fucking re-entry into the fucking atmosphere with a fucking face mask only? Number three, nobody, including you, Fourth, is gonna ever disprove the fact that Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor is the most comic book accurate supervillain in any fucking movie ever made. It's not even close. I mean, we can say what we want about the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, but that's Heath Ledger's Joker. The Eisenberg Lex Luthor is not the Smallville child molester Lex Luthor. He's the Lex Luthor from Superman Birthright that didn't hang out with a bunch of high schoolers when he was in his 20s. But that's a different story for a different time. I'm just saying Eisenberg's the best. And then the final hot take, I guess, would be to Azteca. Thomas Jane's Punisher. Thomas Jane is a good character as a Punisher, but Warzone is a better movie. Travolta brings that movie down. You can have all the sentiment you want for Travolta, but that's not, other than the opening scene in the movie, that's not a Punisher movie. That's an action movie with the Punisher in it.
By name.
Okay, that was a little bit of you were on a roll there.
Yes, he covered.
Sorry. Wait,
you agree that I agree with you on Lex Luthor, right, Spider-Man?
Huh?
You agree that I agree with you on Lex Luthor, though, right, Spider-Man?
Which is what is your thesis on Lex Luthor?
No, I think he's the best Lex Luthor there is on film.
Okay, I'll agree with you on that. What else is part of your point? Do you have a hidden feature on your point there? Is there a
No. I didn't know you knew where I stood on that one. I kind of missed when you.
Oh no! I'm just kind of coming at you funny because I see you in the comments. So I was just bringing it to your attention just in case you wanted to come see me on the Lex.
Yeah, because he's expecting you to be contrarian no matter where your actual stance is.
Oh no! I'll fight with them back to back on that Lex Luthor issue.
Okay, we'll stand back to back on that fight because that's the Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me get out of here and stop capitalizing all the other fans' time, William.
All right, man.
Yep. See you, man.
Just
Good to meet you guys.
All right, Chappie.
What's up? Hey guys.
Oh, just before I go, William, I don't know if you can still rotate me out. I just want to say, do not get your hopes up about Creator. It looks cool, but Gareth Edwards has not made a solid film since.
He's made two really great movies. Okay, I really like this Godzilla movie, and I love Rogue One. So he's all good with me.
Godzilla, a lot of complaints. You have to find love in that movie. It's not universally loved. Rogue One has the most boring characters ever created on screen.
God, you're gonna get kicked out, man.
Dude, that's the second best Star Wars movie.
I guess it looks cool. It was the first tonally serious looking war movie. The shots are great.
It's everything about it is cool. It's acted well.
Yeah.
The characters. What were you bored? What were you looking for? Like Acme and Wile E. Coyote in the movie? I mean, it was a war movie, man.
Turn all the noise down. You'll see that all the characters are cool based on the way you choose a character in a video game that you never played before. This guy's cool because he has two guns. Oh, this guy's a samurai. That's the extent of their personalities, and there's nothing else in there. And why do they only have Donnie Yen do martial arts one time?
Star Wars again.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you could frame it that way, but those characters are flat as flat can be.
Dude.
Disagree.
The views, as usual. As a matter of fact, whenever you see Meat Wagon or whatever the hell his name he's using, the views and opinions of the walrus do not necessarily represent the views of humankind. It's definitely not the sci-fi center. So, yeah.
According to William, you can find me on.
But they are his.
This is news to me. All right.
Yep. Yeah, that's your new name, Grinder Walrus. In fact, I can change it. Can I actually change your name?
Yeah, we got another contrarian opinion here with Chappie, and dude, I'm just gonna let you have the floor on that one because I mean, as Terminator Salvation, as a non-fan, it's like usually I want to hear what people when they're kind of in the minority on the popular consensus. So yeah, go for it, man. Give us your thoughts on it.
Thank you very much. Well, I've always really appreciated Salvation because it always had like a really different feel to it because we always got like glimpses of it in like the first two T2 films, Terminator and Terminator Judgment Day. Like we always got like glimpses of like the future war. And I always thought that was like really interesting. And the fact that we actually got a movie forward with that is actually pretty amazing. And like I said, Christian Bale is great casting.
I do like him as Connor. I do like him as John Connor.
It's great. And who else? I mean, like I said, the cast is great too. And again, the movie's really good. I don't think it's because it's not like up to Terminator Judgment Day, but it's definitely
It's not even the same universe as Judgment Day.
No, listen, anybody out there, my thing is like anybody out
that the same syllable.
No, my thing is anybody out there who thinks we're ever going to get a better Terminator than T2, it's like you could write that off. I mean, that's like that's the pinnacle of Terminator for me. Is
this
T2.
is the last great one we're going to get.
There is a better Terminator out there, but they just keep refusing to make what people want to see. Just chronicle the future war from the ground up.
I know, it's like,
People
dude,
crawl out of the
that's why I'm looking forward to the Creator.
They gave us that well. That's why, like, at the end, when they have that tease, and like you think it's gonna like go somewhere, and it really doesn't, because they lost the rights afterwards to the movie.
They lost the rights like 4 or 5 different times.
Yeah, and then they went on to reboot it into like Genesis.
Show when the people crawl out of the ashes. Show when the people get abducted by the machines that are forced to work in the factories. They break out. They steal some weapons. They form the first little small militia. You know, I mean, the problem with Salvation is it jumps too far after.
Yeah, they're a good amount into the war by the time, because it takes place in like 2020 something which makes it interesting to watch now, but.
When you watch Salvation, it feels like a final chapter in a trilogy when they go up against the Machine City, even though it doesn't feel that epic. But it was like a lot's missing.
Well, I was going to say that it was supposed to be like the first part of like a trilogy, and then once they lost the rights, pretty much all of that got canceled. So it sucks.
I disagree with Spider-Man when it comes to that.
Thank goodness that it did.
I know he's not here to defend himself. That portrayal of Lex Luthor is not Lex Luthor. It's Alexander Luthor in the comics. I don't see Lex at all in Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor. It's more Alexander to me.
I felt it was Lex, but I want to address. I want to address Chappie. Listen, dude. I think that this is a challenge to you to come up on the show, because this is the second time, and defend some awful. You tried to defend the merits of Cloverfield, the throw-up shaky cam movie.
No, you want to hear a hot thing? It's like, because I'm going to sort of join you, Chappie. I like Genesis.
Oh God!
What?
Yeah, I'm gonna get kicked out, aren't I?
You know what? Oh. I'm pretty sure he's having bandwidth issues. He's been in and out all night. Genesis sucked. Salvation sucked. I'm sorry. Those movies both blew. They've done damage to the franchise.
Did damage with Dark Fate. That was like
my ass, man.
Final nail in the
damage was already done with Dark Fate. The shit stains were already there before Dark Fate came along. I
actually got to meet Linda Hamilton. Actually, the year that was 2015. Yeah, when Genesis came out, that was like a month after my buddy Mike and I. We went to we took a trip to Tampa Comic-Con, and she was doing a panel there. So I got to meet her. She's a real sweet lady, in person. Linda Hamilton.
Yeah. And for me, the recent Terminator stuff, the Chronicles show was way better than the movies, to be honest.
It would have been. Larry,
I mean, I love the Sarah Chronicles series. It's really good.
Terminator should not be on television. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on.
Aren't you leaving? Yeah.
No. And actually, I think the movie Terminator would actually do good as a streaming show.
I think it could actually. Well, here's the thing that Dark Fate.
12 years too late. I mean,
no. Here's the thing that Dark Fate did that I and also Genesis also kind of did. I had an article go up on Screen Rant recently where I talked a little bit about this. This is what I've always wanted to see them do with Terminator. Because it's a question I had ever since like the first one when he goes into Sarah's apartment and he kills a roommate, and for a second there he thinks he's killed Sarah. Then the phone rings and he realizes the mistake. Because I'd always wanted to see, okay, he's sent back in time. He can't get back to his future timeline. So if a Terminator is sent back in time and completes the mission to kill Sarah or kill John Connor, what happens next? Where does he go from that point? And that was the idea that they really started to do with Dark Fate, with Arnold, where it's like he started, because he didn't have any further mission or any further program. It's like, he was just left with to just wander and he started to become actually more humanized. That's, I think, is the best foundation to do something new with Terminator, was like have a Terminator that is in a situation where he has no mission to fulfill. Where does he go from there?
What's supposed to happen, Brad? You know what's supposed to happen after the mission is complete? It's supposed to self-destruct. You know why? Because anything else that they do will fuck up their own future. Because here's the thing about Terminator: no matter how awful the movies have been, Genesis, Salvation, and the other ones, no matter how awful the movies are, the one premise is the same. The Terminators fuck themselves. The Terminators eternally and perpetually screw themselves because they continue to send a Terminator back that requires someone to be sent back. They create their own loop. They don't lose. I don't even want to know what the hell that was. They don't have enough. They're computers, but they don't have enough logic to dictate that. If we continue to do this, this is not changing. We continue to send these robots back there, and John Connor's still here.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's what.
Well, that's Skynet.
Yeah.
No, and for me, that would have been an interesting. For me, that would be an interesting take on Terminator if the Terminators turned on Skynet and joined the human resistance.
Well, they did. That's what Terminator 2 was
like the way the Salvation sequels, and that's why I say it's such a shame that they didn't do a sequel, because I think you could have really have expanded on that, like a lot of stuff in those sequels, like with Salvation. Yeah.
All I'll say is, if there's any real disciplined Terminator fans,
hold on, one at a time, guys.
If there's any real disciplined Terminator fans, it would have just ended at part 2. That's
No, because I like part 3. Part 3 actually explains things the way they're supposed to be explained.
I can say this right now, as someone that hated part 3 at first. Like, I did not like that movie at all. But after watching Terminator Dark Fate, I went back and rewatched it, and I have a much more appreciation for it now.
I'm okay with 3, but it's like I do like the fact that because with the ending of 3. I really like the balls that it took for them to do the ending with 3 coming off of 2.
The way how it sets up,
just the popularity of T2, and then for them to basically say no, we're going to do a complete 180 of that with T3. It's like
Spidey's backstage.
Okay, I'm gonna have to revolve people out here because I got my mental max, but Terminator 3 to me was one of my favorite ones, simply because it explained the way they were telling their timeline story. That the fact that it was never supposed to happen. The original first 2 movies were the Judgment Day was never supposed to happen that way. It was always programming that they couldn't detect until the programming was in motion, and that finding the Terminator, but the parts and Cyberdyne and all that being created only moved Judgment Day up, and that there was no preventing Judgment Day, and that's what he was not there. No Terminator is there necessarily to prevent Judgment Day. They were only there, and this is consistent throughout, to make sure that John Connor made it through, because what he meant throughout that history.
Because if he doesn't make it, they don't make it.
Exactly.
Here's where Terminator turned itself into a whore for the almighty dollar. When part 3 came out. When 1 and 2 came out, it was a perfect, solid story. The pendulum of storytelling.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. How is that a perfect, solid story with that shitty ending when you look at the time?
I'll tell you. The pendulum of storytelling swings in 2 directions. You have part 1 where the future is set, and then part 2 was the optimistic send-off where there's no fate for what we make for ourselves. By the time you make a third one, you have to pick one of those 2 story choices, and they went with the first movie, making the second movie pointless because there is no fate for what we make for ourselves. The war is going to happen. Here comes the cash machine of the adventure stories.
No, all movies are cash machines, by the way. They don't do them for free.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to be obvious cash machines.
Why not? If they're not obvious cash grabs, let me in for free. I get it for free now, but not everybody else in for free.
our involvement is the story aspect of it. So by the time you make part 3, you invalidated part 2.
Part 2 needed to. No, they did not invalidate. They explained part 2. They did, from their point of view in Terminator 2. The audience and the actors and the role players are explaining it to the best that they know. It wasn't until they knew the whole story in part 3 that they realized, because when what's his face from Cyberdyne dies, and when they destroy all that stuff, then guess what? The only thing you should see on your screen is Sarah Connor in a room all by herself, because there's no John Connor, because there's no reason to send back his father. If everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and the fact that they left it that way means that there had to be a part 3 to explain why this was inevitable. And the fate that they make for themselves is whether they survive. They survive Judgment Day, not whether Judgment Day happens.
The fate that they make for themselves is that we can decide our own destiny, our own future.
No, you're reading some Spring Valley shit into it.
It was a solid send-off.
See,
right,
and William, I have a question. Is it Fourth or Chappie that always brings up the replicant argument with you for what is it called?
Blade Runner. I got about 20 people that do. Yeah, and they're all wrong.
Oh no! Everybody is in agreement, and they're right that William's wrong.
Yeah,
I agree with William. I agree with William.
So now everybody but Anthony gets dumped now. But all right, guys, I got to move on. I think I don't want what Spider-Man want. What you want, man? Are you just back here listening or what? What's up?
Anthony said that he wanted to discuss something with me, but I'm not going to take your show from you, man. I'll listen. If the conversation's going a different way, I'm with it where it's going. This is your show.
I do want to ask you guys, like, if they ever do decide to continue the Terminator franchise, like, let's say, like, maybe like an animated like TV show, like a movie.
Well, apparently Cameron's. I mean, this is free writer strike. He's talking about like writing another one.
Do with this next one. Just hear me out. Do you think they should just have it take place in the future again? Like, just have it take place in a future war and have it and continue and again, just have it be set there. Don't have it be set in the Connor saga, like in Earth. We've done that before. We've done that 2 times. It's failed. To do something different. Do what you did in Salvation. Have it set in the future war, and then come up with any story you want to do. I don't know.
All right. So I'm going to answer that question in the way that they were already answering it in terms, and forget about what Fourth is going to say. And Sarah Connor Chronicles, they were already telling that. If you watch the season finale, or what ended up being
I know.
They were
the
telling
TV show was great. I love the TV show.
So this is what I do. I get Leading Keeley, who's never going to age as long as you got that.
Oh God, have you seen her in Dread? God, it's like even when she's ugly, she's beautiful.
Yeah. What? Okay, so I bring her back. I get somebody else to play because he's probably aged out by now to play to J. John Connor. Summer Glau, you can DH her. She's a little bit rougher now. She's aged, but
she
you
looks
can
good
DH
for
her.
age. She looks.
Yeah, you get Paul Michael or Paul Green or whatever. What's his face's husband? You bring him back as a brother, and you bring back that FBI. You bring them all back. Dylan Hunt. He still looks the same. And you finish that story. Here's what you do: you finish that story, and whatever you're gonna do from the Terminator from that point on. What's her face? Shirley Manson, who still looks good. And for her as that T-1000, that last episode, I wanted to punch my fist through the screen when I found that we were never going to get that again.
Yeah.
And that's Fox. That was because Fox was being poorly mismanaged at the time, and they could get away with that because they had big IPs. They had NFL.
Well,
and
I
they
thought
had
it
NASCAR.
was because of like Terminator Salvation underperformed at the box office. That's why they kind of
the Sarah Connor Chronicles that started like a year before Salvation.
Yeah.
What caused them to do that is because Fox didn't feel that they needed science fiction in prime time other than X-Files. And had the people who were managing Fox at that time been around when X-Files was coming on the air, we would have never got as X-Files. We would have got one season of X-Files and would have got choked off. The people who were running Fox at that time, they had billion-dollar IPs with NFL and NASCAR. Those were the 2 big ones, and they had Major League Baseball. They wanted to compete with everyone else on that. And this was before Fox Sports got to where it is now and broken up. So they just didn't have the regard for primetime science fiction. That's why Firefly got screwed. Firefly got screwed hard because not only did you not see all the episodes, they were shown out of order. So if you were trying to follow that storyline for the 8 or 9 episodes you got totally hosed on that.
Well, yeah, but it's also Joss Whedon, so I can only mourn that so much.
Okay, well, but not now, yes, we, but at the
That was
time,
before the whole
Yeah.
situation with
that
him.
was like 10 years before the whole
See,
situation.
see, and this is why, for me, William, this is why I'm saying that Amazon or Apple would do well with taking the whole Terminator franchise, and you can get more out of a show building up to what you guys are talking about
Yeah.
through a show than you do with movies, to be honest.
So wait a
Put that
minute,
shit on-
That
Anthony,
applies to everything, by the way. That
Anthony,
applies
let
to
me see if I understand what you're saying, Anthony. Are you potentially starting the hashtag sell Terminator to Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah, but doesn't
What-
who owns the rights now?
Put that shit on Tubi.
I think
Disney
yeah,
owns the rights
actually.
to Terminator
Camera
because
own the rights
they own
still?
Fox.
I think it might be that with Cameron now, actually,
Yeah. Okay.
because he's said he's like penning a. William hates the term reboot, but I mean, I guess that's the way it's being described. But I mean,
Yeah.
especially with something like Terminator, I mean, reboot is kind of a relative term anyway.
Well, with Terminator,
William
it
hates
does
that
not
word,
apply.
reboot.
It does not apply because you're talking about time travel.
Yeah,
Anytime
yeah.
you have that kind of time travel, you're retconning. You can always retcon your own situation. The whole basis of Terminator was them retconning the reality that they are already living in. The computers come up with a stupid ass logic that if they destroy this guy, they will retcon and change the present that they are living in, which is stupid. But when you talk about rebooting something like that, you don't really have to change a lot in Terminator. You just basically send
It's
him
just another
or her back,
timeline.
to
it's
wherever
a
point
time
that you want to change. That's it.
And the one
Remember-
character I'm gonna say that would in comics that would have worked in Terminator, hypothetically, if they would have brought him in from comic books specifically, is
RoboCop.
Ultron, because he would have controlled that whole scenario. To be
Yeah,
honest,
Yeah.
Say that again.
It's Ultron.
yeah.
For Terminator?
yeah.
He's saying like
He
like,
outside that
comic
side is what he's
character.
saying.
Hold on. One at a time. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, what I was saying is, for me, the one character, because I understand he was created by humans like Tony Stark, but I think Ultron would have took control of Skynet and not allowed the Terminators to make the stupid decisions they made if he was in the Terminator franchise. You
Well,
guys
he gets
agree?
defeated because he makes stupid decisions in his own movies. So
Yeah. Nah.
Are we talking about the real Ultron, or are we talking about movie Ultron?
Both.
Because he said comic books, and comic book Ultron is, Hank Pym's creation, the original Human Torch's body.
No, I'm talking about movie Ultron.
he's talking
Oh,
about
he's an
James
idiot.
Cameron.
He'd lose. Yeah, if we're yeah, he wouldn't take over Skynet. He lost his own movie, like you said. Yeah.
Tony Stark outthought him, so I think other computers.
Yeah.
will be
He
able to-
created him. Of course, he outthought him. What do you? You
Well,
don't think the creator
mankind
would have
created-
outsmarted his own creation?
Mankind created the AI that became Skynet and the Terminator, and we were not able to outsmart them until they wiped out half of the human race. This is a good day, bad day thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But do you think they ever would bring it back though, like the Sailor Chronicles series? Like, do you think there's like enough fans out there that really do want to see it, or you think they're just gonna like move a different direction?
I mean, I think it'd be kind of with
because
we
I
were
would
just saying-
I would be there from day one.
with what we were just saying about the the whole alternate timeline aspect of Terminator. I mean, really, you could do a really interesting thing if you were to like kind of try to consolidate all of the different timelines into like some kind of like story of different parallel realities, and if you like made that the story, and like Sarah Connor Chronicles would be one of those.
It would be Tales. To me, it would be Tales of the Terminator. So I wouldn't necessarily bring back all of that. I would look at Terminator. I would look at the autopsy that is Terminator, and I would take the best aspect of it and I would put it in a linear timeline, and it would be told from the future, but you're looking back at the era that you're in and seeing how it all turns out, and then I would wrap it up. I wouldn't do a continuous series. I would do a limited series to lead into movies. Go ahead.
Remember when Terminator was just about using time travel for the excuse for the story to happen? Now they're jumping through portals every week and going to multiverses.
Well, no, and that's the thing about that. That's where you mess up when it comes. Terminator is linear time. Terminator is linear time. There is no from their perspective. They're not telling you their rules, not the rules of.
They don't have the Flash spaghetti analogy, is the way to put it.
It's linear time, so they are telling you a story in a straight line, and when you affect anything else in that line, it doesn't branch off. It just goes forward differently. So when you found the hand and the chip, the microchip in Terminator 1, that brought something that was going to happen in 2003. It made it happen in 1984, and that's how it happened. From that, so the reality from them is from 1984 on. They are telling you that story in a linear concept.
See,
Until somebody comes along and just decides to change that and put Judge Dredd and RoboCop in the story.
yeah, no, and for me, this is an
with.
interesting way to tell the story of Terminator. How about from the perspective if Skynet and the robots won the war instead of the humans? Like if they were able to outsmart the humans instead of the humans constantly being one step ahead.
That's interesting because I mean that's kind of a similar. You're talking about alternate history in a fictional context.
If you want to do a TV show, that could work perfectly. You know,
can't do it. Here's why you cannot do this. And I'm going to explain why. Remember the basis. No matter what Terminator movies you hate or love, and there's 3 of them that I can't stand. But no matter what basis, what caused them to send the robot back to get John Connor to begin with? They were losing. They were not winning the war. Remember, the humans were about to defeat them. If the humans if they win the war, then there's no reason to send any of these guys back.
Well, according to Kyle Reese, he says we won.
Yeah,
he said
they did win. Yeah, and what was happening is they found out about the time machine, and they realized what I think they hacked into it or something. They realized what the computers were going to do, and they couldn't allow that. The humans had actually won or were on the verge of winning. So you would take away the premise of everything. You would take away the reasoning, even the dumbass Skynet computers that keep on sending Kyle Reese back.
Not only that, but you also have the fact that John Connor knows that Kyle Reese is his father, so he knows that sending Kyle back, it's not just a matter of like protecting Sarah. It's
he's
also
not even born.
He has to send Kyle back to make sure that he himself is born.
Exactly, because John Connor from the future knows that Judgment Day is inevitable. But if the robots were to win, then John Connor's never even born. There's no story. Because there's no reason. Like I said, what they did was out of desperation because they were losing. But if they're winning, John Connor's not even born. So you pretty much take away the premise of your story right there and then. So
yeah, is there a way you like? Is there? I'm saying, so Terminator, you can't do alternate timeline stories, is what you're saying. They're not a divergent timeline type of franchise.
No, because you're playing by the rules that they've operated by through the entire franchise. So if they were telling you like Marvel or somewhere else or Star Trek, wherever you do something, a divergent reality, if they have been telling the story in that way, yeah. But by the rules that they've been consistent by since 1984, they're telling a linear timeline. They are doing what everything that they do is to affect a linear timeline. That is what they're doing. They're not trying to create an alternate universe, and the effects are not even in Dark Fate, which is a fucking wretched movie with waste of great talent. But even in Dark Fate, them changing their past only created a different future from that linear point on. But remember, the Terminators and Skynet are affecting the past from their future. It's only when the humans are successful in stopping their means from going on that
this is why I couldn't get into the Terminator franchise. It's too confusing. Sometimes
not really
confusing.
That's
think of a straight line.
Reboots. When you have like so many reboots, like it gets so convoluted. That's why the franchise kind of went off the rails after Salvation.
After Terminator 2.
It's like I said. I think it's when you think of just a linear time concept, which is what Terminator is based on. It is based on linear time. It's actually based on the same concept that Star Trek used in yesterday's Enterprise. It's a linear time concept. Now, Star Trek does alternate timelines and stuff like that, but that particular story where the Enterprise C leaves its time and comes to the future, that affects the direct line. That is not an alternate timeline. That is now the future. That is now the existing future. That is a result of something that was supposed to happen in the past, not happening in the past. That's what Terminator is. At its best and at its worst, Terminator is a straight line. A straight line.
The other reason why Terminator should not go on. Every movie copies the same tropes from the first 2 movies over.
Except for Salvation. That was different.
Salvation
because it was the future war, yeah. But yeah, they have all done some version of there's a Terminator sent back. We have to send back somebody to stop the turn.
It starts with a car chase. It starts with
doesn't
we
really
need to get the
bother me.
weapons, then they turn the tables, and then they're in a factory somewhere.
Yeah, and Arnold's there. He ends up dying.
Battles.
Yeah.
Wait, like I love the finale battle where like the T-800 comes in and then they have to like battle this.
I think
this role like again the finale.
same.
So
see, I think what needs to happen with Terminator specific.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Go
I
ahead.
can't hear you.
I think he froze.
Yeah, I didn't mute him. I didn't do it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
There
you
you
can
go.
hear me, man.
For me, what needs to happen with I think we waited too long for the sequels for Terminator to happen. That's what there was such a time gap between the 3 original movies
Yeah.
and the sequels, and there was really no timeline connections because there was such a huge jump between the movies, like the first 3 movies and the ones that happened in the 2000s in the 2010s. You guys agree?
Came out in 2009.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I was thinking about this while you guys were talking about this. Some people are talking about if there should be another one, if they should stop it, and then you brought up this Terminator movie.
I say yes, but if it's going to be in the future war, I say yes. Go for it.
Here's what I would bring up. My nephew and my friends' kids and all different types of people, they know everything about Avatar. They appreciate Avatar. They look at Avatar like everybody's watching like Terminator back when we were younger. Yeah. Do anybody in that age group know what Terminator is or care?
Now, are you talking about Avatar, Cameron Avatar, or Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I'm talking about Cameron's Avatar.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying though? Is Terminator's time past maybe? Well, and if it is, do we need to keep bringing back Schwarzenegger instead of maybe like Tony's saying over here? Maybe just like do a future war.
No, it's what we need. No, the obvious solution we got from Last Action Hero needs to be Sly finally.
No,
way too late, guys. That's the point. The 18-year-olds, the 22-year-olds, they're not going to go to the movie, and then you're going to get a 2023 summer where a bunch of 40-year-olds are crying on YouTube and trying to dictate what needs to be watched. And so we're watching geriatric Indiana Jones and Flash movies that were in development for 10 years and trying to finish a Justice League story that happened.
First of all, I'm not 40. I'm in my early 30s.
Kids.
Here,
I'm 38, so I'm in my 30s too. But my point is, the people that are emphasizing this and bringing up all these points and doing, we're all in a later age, and the people that are going to be buying the tickets and going multiple times and putting the energy into it is going to be people that are younger. And I'm not saying it's over for Terminator. I'm saying when people are bringing up the same tropes are being used over. When I'm seeing Schwarzenegger in every Terminator movie, and he was the first one when I was 2. you see what I'm saying?
Go ahead and
like Arnold even said he doesn't want to come back after Dark Fate. Like he said he was done.
But he didn't. It's beside the point. Like you're saying, why don't we just do a whole new story in that timeline and get people interested in the story that was instead of trying to rehash the same story over and over and over?
Sequel to Salvation. That's what I've been saying this whole time.
That could be a route then, because I think that'd be a bet. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Oh no, go ahead now. Then you then Fourth, because I think Fourth had his hand up. Were you about to say something?
No. Yeah, I would say that Terminator is one of the biggest pieces of Hollywood, gold, part 1 and part 2, that it finds its way into for new audiences. I don't think that it needs to be remade or continued. There's plenty of like my kids on TikTok are finding movies that are classics and they're being told to watch them, and they're asking if I have these movies in my collection. Yeah, go pull it out there. All the important stuff will constantly rise to the surface. Now, I understand that the machine needs to make money. I would say if they have to, do a completely different Terminator storyline, different characters, different so that it's fresh for the 40-year-olds and it's new for the generation that comes up.
Right, exactly. I agree.
Exactly. Like you can have it set in the future war, but instead of focusing on like Kyle Reese or like John Connor, have it be completely new and different.
Well, and that's another idea. That's another idea I did like in Salvation, where they brought in Marcus Wright. They had a new protagonist.
They started a new idea. Yeah.
Great job.
I got to dip out.
All right, guys.
Get my kid from work.
All right. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys for all joining. I got everybody in. I got people in twice.
Oh,
So-
I was talking about the Lex Luthor thing. That's what I wanted you to. What I was saying
Mhm.
earlier, Spidey, is for me when I look at Lex Luthor, I don't see he's not he's Alexander Luthor from the comics, not Lex. I don't see he's not what Lex Luthor is in the comics. I see more Alexander and Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor more than Lex, in my honest opinion.
Okay, and then I would point out just in the movie that we saw, nothing else was standing. Pretend that you could have the wig on or not, whatever. This is what Lex Luthor did. He manipulated senators into letting him get Superman's ship and the kryptonite, while he manipulated Batman into getting angry at Superman, while manipulating Batman to then steal the kryptonite to do his bidding. Created Doomsday after he got the knowledge of 100,000 worlds downloaded into his head, then killed Superman, blew up the Capitol, right? That wasn't even the highlight of the movie. He blew up the Capitol of the United States of America, almost got away with everything, unless if Lois Lane didn't find that bullet, doing Lois Lane what Lois Lane does in the comics, then Lex Luthor would have got away with not only killing Superman, but making himself look like the hero killing the god. Also making Batman look like the criminal, whatever would have happened in all that stage. That's a very successful Lex Luthor plan.
Thank you.
That is not Lex Luthor. I'll see you next episode, or that's not Lex Luthor. I created this kryptonite nuclear missile that's supposed to kill Superman, but we need the episode to go over to the season finale, so he's not really going to die. So Superman can fight, Darkseid at the end of this episode, or Lex Luthor turning into Zod and then not turning into Zod, and then kind of remembering that Clark is Superman and not, and all. I mean, all that's cute, but the Lex Luthor from the comics that gets shit done was in the movie that Zach made, as far as I saw. And then he was moving on. He broke Batman's identity after he offered him $1 million glass of champagne and said, "How you want to do this?" Like, that's Lex Luthor. Who is that? Who am I describing when I say that? That's all I'm saying.
We're going to end it on that because we could probably go on for another hour.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to go ahead and rotate you out and do my final goodbye to the crowd. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you guys for listening. And like I said, we'll try to do this a little bit more often. All right, guys.
All right.
And let's see, make sure I don't accidentally get rid of bad. All right, guys.
That was a perfect, that was and he was getting the BVS fan of me kind of, amped up there to sort of.
I saw your face. Oh, yeah, okay. I think Brad's about to go nuclear here. He's about to go old man here. No, that was fun. That was good. We need to do that every now and then. Reach out to you guys, get you guys on here, because a lot of times the reason I did that is a lot of times I see you guys typing comments all the time, all throughout the week, and sometimes comments are taken out of context. So I figured it was a good time to bring you guys in to flesh out some of your ridiculous opinions, in my opinion. But you had your time. You had your time. To actually say things the way you wanted them to be said, the way you wanted them to be heard, and in the tone and tenor that you wanted them to be heard in, instead of just words flying by on a screen, because like I said, not only can I not get to all of them sometimes, but I'm reading words on the screen. It's not the same as human interaction, and this is the closest thing we have. So we covered all our topics. We even bought in some chatters and had Fourth do exactly what he does in the chat room, which is corrupt that too. So that's about it. We will, like I said, please subscribe the stream, and share it if you think this is a conversation that you have other geeks that you might want to spread this to. Let's grow our little geek community one geek at a time. And once again, we're going to go out with the same way we came in. Saturday night, everybody's out partying, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you may be sitting at home thinking that your personal value isn't as much as those people. Trust me when I tell you, you mean a lot to somebody. Whether you're out partying, whether you're being lifted up on someone's shoulders in a football game, or whether you're just being you, the father, daughter, son, whatever you are, you mean something to somebody. So in that vein, make sure that you call 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline if you start thinking that you aren't what you think you are or what you need to be. Trust me, there's somebody out there that's gone through those thoughts, that sat alone on a Saturday night, on a holiday, on a Christmas, or gone through whatever it is you're going through. There's a couple hundred people, if not more, sitting, waiting for your call, waiting to tell you that you're full of hot air if you think you don't mean anything. So there you go. All right, Brad, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Vero, also occasionally on Facebook. You can find my writing on Kung Fu Kingdom and Screen Rant, and you just see me here every Saturday night, and you'll definitely see. I'll definitely be tuning in, of course, for next this coming Saturday's marathon with a certain duck.
Rather go through dysentery than watch this, but oh well. All right, for Brad, for myself, on behalf of the Sci-Fi Center, on behalf of Screen Rant, and on behalf of the chat and the guests we had, thank you guys for being here. And once again, thank you for being the best part of this YouTube channel.